Hindu Opportunities HR Conclave. It's so good to see you all today in this fantabulous event. Can we have a big round of applause for the Hindu Opportunities for doing this amazing event for all of us today? We are excited to bring you this year's focus on a topic that's increasingly transforming workplaces worldwide: diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI. We have an outstanding group of industry leaders, change makers, and experts joining us today to explore how DEI can help shape more inclusive, innovative, and successful organizations. As we dive into today's discussions, it's essential to reflect on where India stands, and more specifically Tamil Nadu, in terms of embracing DEI. Over the past decade, DEI has emerged not only as a normal imperative, but also as a powerful business strategy that fosters creativity, innovation, and employee management. We are honored to have a distinguished chief guest, our keynote speaker and a special address speaker with us today. We also like to extend our heartfelt thank you to our title sponsors, RRD and St. Gobind, our gift sponsors, Makoba, and the knowledge partner, Avtar, for the generous support. Can we have a huge round of applause for the amazing sponsors for the day? To officially kick off the event, it's my pleasure to invite Mr. Subramanian Ramanathan, Vice President of Human Resources at the Hindu Group, to deliver the welcome address. With a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Mr. Subramanian Ramanathan onto the stage.
Once again, good evening. So it's my pleasure to welcome you all, the Hindu Opportunity HR Conclave, on shaping the future of managing workforce, embrace DEI, empower change. It's my honor to welcome our chief guest, Honorable MP, Dr. Thamizhachi Thangapandian, Madam. I am glad to welcome Mrs. Meena Sinha from R.R. Donnelly, and Dr. Soundarya Rajesh from Avtar Group, and all the distinguished speakers, guests, and my dear HR folks. It's our privilege to welcome all our sponsors and partners, R.R. Donnelly, St. Gobind, Avtar Group, and Makoba, and MMA. So we understand that our greatest asset is our people. We all are aware embracing DEI enriches our organization in many ways towards the success. This evening we will engage in insightful discussions, share our best practices, and learn from the inspiring speakers and leaders who are leading the DEI initiatives in this hall. Once again, on behalf of the Hindu Group, I welcome each one of you to make this HR Conclave a memorable and inspiring experience. Thanks for the opportunity. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, sir, for the wonderful welcome note. Now it's my great honor to introduce our esteemed chief guest, Dr. Thamizhachi Thangapandian, Member of Parliament, South Chennai Constituency, Tamil Nadu. Dr. Thamizhachi Thangapandian holds an MA and doctorate in English Literature from Chennai from 1996 to 2008, a recipient of the prestigious AIC Fellow Award in the year 2004. She is acclaimed for her contributions to Tamil and English literature with over 25 publications to her credit. That's wow. Her literary interests span post-colonial and diasporic literature, translation, freelance writing, Tamil theatre, and performing arts. Her notable works include Island to Island, Internal Colloquies, Birthing Heart and Other Stories, and The Thread of Silence. Her poetry collection, Enjo Tippin, received the Sirpi Literary Prize 2004 and the Mahakavi Balagur Award 2005, and is included in several university syllabi. Dr. Thamizhachi has received numerous accolades for her contributions to Tamil literature, including the Pavel Bharat Dasan Virudu in 2009 and the Kalinger Poetry Award 2013. Currently, she serves as a Member of Parliament for the South Chennai Constituency. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together and welcome the gorgeous and the talented Dr. Thamizhachi Thangapandian avargal onto the stage, madam.
Because when I have a mic, any politician, just let me know. Yes, I have, but still, yeah. It's not a cliche, Vanakkam, good morning. When I say that, it's my utmost pleasure and privilege to be in this evening to address as a chief guest for this HR Conclave of the Hindu group in association with the Saint Gube. இங்கு கூடியிருக்கிற எல்லாருக்கும் என்னுடைய அன்பான மாலை வணக்கம். பொதுவாக ஒரு நிகழ்ச்சிக்கு சென்று நான் உணர்வது as a politician, as a pride, as a former professor of English, that I'm going to meet a lot of people. Is my raw material. That's the interesting part of being involved in the public service as well as being in the teaching profession as well as a creative writer. So that way, I take real pleasure in addressing you all and Mr. Navneet, CEO of the Hindu, Mr. Ramnagan Subramanian, Vice President of the Hindu, Ms. Meena Sinha, Vice President, Dr. Soundarya Rajesh, founder of that group, and the panelists and the experts who have gathered here to share their expertise with you. A very good evening, Anbana Vanakkam unga ellarkume. In the conclave, the major tagline is embrace DEI, empower change. So I was just wondering, what is this DEI? Diversity, equity and inclusion, especially in our workplaces, which actually kindled a lot of interests to think about these two important phrases as a politician, as a poet, as a human being, as a daughter of an agriculturist mother who have had this experience of running a farm, and in all these arenas of my life, I've been interconnected with human beings, and as I stated in the beginning, they are the wonderful, priceless raw materials. So these three important phrases on which the conclave is just going to thrust upon are phrases I think I feel basically all human beings are in need of it, especially workplaces. That's what the Hindu group's main aim today is. How are we going to incorporate these three things to do an ease of business? That is their word these days. Ease of business is a phrase which need to be approached professionally without any emotion attached to it, but take these three, diversity, equity and inclusion, these are actually terms packed with human emotions. So how do we combine the ease of business with these three wonderful phrases? I think the conclave will definitely throw light on this aspect of life. It has become increasingly evident that the success of any organization, for example, take the Hindu group, today's global economy, is intimately linked with its ability to embrace and champion these three basic concepts, DEI. Studies repeatedly show that businesses that prioritize inclusion outperform those that do not, as diversity brings with it a rich confluence of ideas, experiences, and problem-solving approaches. In this sense, the pursuit of DEI is not an ethical luxury, it is an intellectual necessity. I want to underscore intellectual necessity. You always have this dichotomy whenever you are involved in the business. As Robert Frost told, two roads diverged in a wood, and I chose the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. So you have this ethical question on one side. Sometimes it can be a luxury because not every people can abide by that term. Sometimes people need to decide major decisions, they have to make major decisions, sans ethics, because life may not be that much kind to them. So that on one side, and this intellectual necessity on the other side. These are two roads, different roads. But you have to take the one which is less traveled by, and that will definitely make a huge difference. And how do you make a huge difference? By incorporating these three important values amidst the business ethos. Ethos is another keyword in any management group, in any sort of entrepreneurial venture, in any sort of business. This is a very, very important word which, for example, any new entrant would like to know what is the ethos of the company, of the particular organization, and how do I get acclimatized to that ethos. And that ethos is majorly, like designed by these three important terms, wherein you need to be very, very careful in balancing your ethical values as well as your intellectual necessity. The things that your intellectual put forward, that these are the important yardsticks. Corporate strategies that integrate diversity do more than enhance their workforce. They enhance the worldviews within which businesses operate, creating a fertile ground for innovation and creativity. So coming to workspaces, I think I'm so happy to see this auditorium, this hall, being filled with equal number of women. That actually, make my heart a little bit swell with pride, because we are in the post-millennial era, and women for that matter, we're all in every walks of life, but still it's a long journey, and still we have miles to go before we sleep. So in the workspaces, when we see that diversity, equity and inclusivity, I think the emphasis should be more on women, because women still have a glass ceiling to break. Women still, in spite of being proud of juggling so many responsibilities and wearing so many hats, still we are vulnerable. Still we do have our own vulnerability, which none of us are very, ashamed to accept also. So, these three words, when I thought what to say in this conclave as a sort of a warming up or breaking the ice speech as a chief guest, women-centric workspaces, people may object. When I was sharing a conversation with some of my male colleagues in the parliament, when this women reservation bill was just brewing up, I told them that reservation is not something that you give on a platter and we need to take it. It is a birthright. and not many of them relished it. They might have received it with a quirky smile, but not many of them relished it, because this birthright is the most disturbing word. So when I say that women-centric workspaces, நான் ஆதியில் அனைத்தும் பெண் வயமாக்கப்பட்ட பெண் மையமான சமூகம், தாய்வழி சமூகம் தான் நமது. வேட்டையில் ஆண் சென்று தன்னுடைய நாட்களை வேட்டையில் கழிக்கும் பொழுது தான் இருந்த இடத்தை இல்லமாக மாற்றியது பெண். நெருப்பை கண்டுபிடித்தவள் பெண், தானியங்களை கண்டுபிடித்தவள் பெண். எல்லா விதமான நியூகினி மொழியில் பெண் நெருப்பு என்பதற்கான சரிசமமான சொல்லாடலாக பெண் நெருப்பு தருகின்றாள், தாய் கிடை குச்சியை தருகின்றாள் என்ற சொல்லாடல் உண்டு. கட்டிடம் கட்டுகின்ற தொழிலிலும் பெண்கள் தான் முதன்மை பெற்றிருந்தார்கள். ஓரினோகா இனத்தில் என்ற அந்த இனக்குழு இனத்தவரிடையே ஆண்கள் கட்டிட தொழிலில் ஈடுபடாமை குறித்து ஸ்டான்லி என்கின்ற ஒரு ஆந்த்ரோபாலஜிஸ்ட் ஒரு கடிதம் எழுதுகின்றார். இங்கு ஆண்கள் கட்டிட தொழிலில் ஈடுபடாமல் இருக்கின்ற இந்த நிலை எனக்கு மிகுந்த வியப்பிற்குரியதாக இருந்தது. அப்படி தப்பித்தவரை ஏதாவது ஒரு இடத்திலே ஆண்கள் கட்டிடம் கட்டுகின்ற தொழிலே ஈடுபடும் பொழுது பெண்கள் அவர்களை சுற்றி நின்று சிரித்துக் கொண்டிருந்தார்கள். இட்ஸ் a recorded fact. ஆண்கள் வேட்டைக்கு சென்று வேட்டையாடி வருகின்ற விலங்குகளை வீட்டு விலங்குகளாக செல்ல பிராணிகளாக பழக்கியவளும் பெண்தான். அவள் அப்படி கடைசியாக பழக்கிய பிராணி ஆண் என்று வேண்டுமானால் நீங்கள் வைத்துக் கொள்ளலாம். Just for a joke I'm saying. So this is not just the millennial era wherein women have all the say or we have really come up in life. It's been our way of life. We have been like this in our physical prowess, in our emotional stability. We were born with equal rights. So I always see this inclusivity, see this equity and diversity with a gender perspective also. At the same time, keeping that in mind, from all the, like religions or from all the எல்லா வகையான இனக்குழு எல்லா வகையான பிரிவினரிடம் இருந்தும் மனிதர்கள் உங்களை நோக்கி வரும் பொழுது அவர்களை அவரவர்கள் தனித்தன்மையோடு அவரவர்களுக்கான இடம் கொடுத்து உள்வாங்கிக் கொண்டு அவர்களிடமிருந்து எப்படி அந்த இடத்திலே வேலை வாங்குவது என்பதுதான் that should be the main focus of this conclave, I think. I'd like to share a very interesting anecdote. This was, I'm not able to pinpoint the company. There was one famous company which had introduced a biscuit for dogs. And for 3 or 4 months, even when it was just thrown into the market, the sales didn't pick up. They've had a umpteen number of meetings amongst themselves, probably 3 or 4 meetings. Why wasn't picking up? Because we have tried all our best. What's wrong with that? It's like that this one such meeting, like that must have been the 4th meeting or the 5th meeting. Again, there was a round table discussion. Everybody, it was a brainstorming session. They were all breaking their heads. And the assistant, one who comes and serves your tea, with all the humility, he just interrupted and then said, "May I share my opinion?" And everybody was gasped. And one of them, oh yes, why don't we hear what she or he, has to say. இப்போ இந்த நாய்களுக்கென்று தயாரித்த இந்த உணவு பதார்த்தம் இந்த பிஸ்கெட் குறித்து நிறைய தடவை நீங்க பேசிட்டீங்க. மார்க்கெட்டிங் சேல்ஸ் எப்படி இருக்கு, அதை அங்கே இம்ப்ரூவ் பண்ணணுமா, இல்லை குவாலிட்டியில் அதில் எதுவும் சரியில்லையா, பேக்கேஜ் இன்ட்ரெஸ்டிங்காக இல்லையா, இதெல்லாம் நீங்கள் சொன்னீங்க. ஆனால் ஒன்று நீங்கள் கேட்கல, யோசிக்கல. அந்த பிஸ்கெட் வந்து நாய்க்கு பிடிச்சிருக்கா முதல்ல, whether it is liked or relished by the dogs. And this has come from, a nonchalant person, nondescript person. In the sense of the milieu of an office setup, like there are certain hierarchy in your workplace that the heads will put themselves put together to discuss certain things, and there are certain people who are there to assist or help us. But such a brilliant question has come from the assistant, which says that inclusivity is one of the very important, crucial component of any businesses, any organization for that matter, as well as the different opinions. That is what you mean by diversity. Like you should have the patience to listen to whoever is there to say their words, and then, like they may be right or they may not be right, but still you have to include, as well as equity. That is again another key word. See, all are equals, but some people are more equal than others. Especially, I know it in the real sense of the word, being a politician. So that there, the HR head, as I said, the HR head, imagine he has to work with human beings as his raw materials. We are not robots. We are not geared up like recently, what is its name, Elon Musk's robo. Anybody familiar with the robo being introduced by Elon Musk? Lismet or something, it starts with L. Okay, he has introduced a robo which can actually help you as a house help. But it's all, like geared up, it's all programmed without any emotions. We are not dealing with such things. Probably AI will be ushering us into that era very quickly. But still, we have to deal with these human beings with emotions. So the really difficult job with the HR head is to handle them. At the same time, to incorporate these values in the milieu, in the ethos, with which he has to maneuver through or navigate through with ethical values, as well as the production result, as well as, like the bonuses or giving holidays or the deadlines. So the real transformation in any organization occurs when equity ensures that each person, regardless of their background, has the resources and support they need to thrive. Inclusion then becomes the climate that nurtures this environment where every individual feels a true sense of belonging, of being valued, of being heard. These are the very important words. When we are heard, we feel that we are valued. When we can share our opinion across the table to our superior, to our manager, from the assessment, usually the major anxiety level of the young entrants or the apprentices nowadays is the assessment period. They all dread that. We know that we need to be very strict with the assessment, but still, who is sitting before us? A human being who can't be really that perfect, who is vulnerable, who has his or her as well as low periods, ebb and low periods. So you have to understand that valued and to be heard are the most important, I think, ways in which any corporate head or any HR manager can actually have a beautiful relationship with their workforce. See, here in Tamil Nadu, we are fortunate to be guided by the government, which has inclusivity as its key, that has always placed social justice and inclusivity at the heart of its policies. Our Honorable Chief Minister, under his leadership, the DMK government continues to build on the state's proud legacy of a progressive governance, and the major thrust is on the social justice, which means the inclusive nature. Our initiatives are not mere responses to the issues of the day, they are embedded in a vision for a more equitable society, one where economic, social and gender disparities are actively addressed. And I feel these are the necessary things for any organization. These are the words: economic, social and gender disparities, diversities, their opinions, irrespective of their background, need to be heard and then valued. Our policies on inclusive hiring for persons with disabilities also challenge traditional notions of workforce composition. Every organization nowadays is pro-friendly. They take into account the difficulties of the physically challenged people, and we keep it as a rule that especially providing the toilets for the cure people, that is also a very, very important thing. This is the one which actually underscores the words, this equity, and you are including whoever is. இந்த பூமி என்பது யானைகளுக்கானது மட்டுமல்ல, காடு எறும்புகளுக்கானதும் கூடத்தான். யானைகளுக்கு எவ்வளவோ, யானைகளுக்கோ சிங்கங்களுக்கோ புலிகளுக்கோ அவர்களுடைய அந்த வலிமையின் பலத்தினால் எவ்வளவு அங்கே இருப்பதற்கான உரிமை இருக்கிறதோ அதே அளவு உரிமை எறும்புகளுக்கும் உண்டு, மண்புழுக்களுக்கும் உண்டு. The same thing can be applicable to any organization. The essence of equity lies in recognizing that not all employees start from the same place, and addressing this imbalance is a moral and practical imperative. Yet achieving equity within organizations requires more than top-down mandates. Middle managers, often the unsung heroes of organizational life, hold the key to operate these inclusive strategies. It is they who on a daily basis interpret, implement and breathe life into these DEI policies. By empowering middle management through training and support, we can ensure that inclusive practices do not remain abstract ideas but become part of the daily fabric of corporate life. This middle managers means the facilitators. Roughly, that's what I mean here, the facilitators, because not everyone, it's quite humanly impossible to be in direct connect with the CEO. That's how you have all the hierarchies in the office. So there are so many unsung heroes. For example, I stated one who has given a wonderful suggestion regarding the sale of a dog biscuits. So those unsung heroes need to be actually celebrated, need to be spotted and made fully use of their capacities or their maximum optimum level of production in any office. Inclusion, when fully realized, is not only about integrating diverse individuals into existing structures, but also about reimagining those very structures. We must challenge the status quo and create environments where differences are not only respected, but actively leveraged for the collective good. This requires a fundamental shift in the way organizations operate, where DEI is not seen as a task or a department, but as the very ethos of the organization itself. The conversations we will have today, the ideas that we will be exchanging now, and the strategies that will emerge are crucial to this ongoing transformation. It is in forums like this that we must not only reflect on what has been achieved, but also critically examine the work that remains to be done. Our collective task is to ensure that DEI is not a temporary agenda item which can be discussed in 2 to 3 hours with the kicking open of a conclave like this. It is something that needs to be continued as a journey. It has to be incorporated in the ethos of any corporate groups or any entrepreneurial ventures. It needs to be adopted, as well as we need to adapt ourselves also to such ethos that without these 3 key elements, a business won't be a meaningful one. It may have a crore turnover. It may show a career, the rising graph of the turnovers, the profit level for 3 consecutive years or 4 consecutive years at the upper level, but still it's a failure if it doesn't address to these needs. And there's no point in just filling up all these gaps with the CSR initiatives. Some of us, we do that. When I say some means, I include me also into that. We do that because we always have this guilt in us at the end of the day. So we try to, like compensate or answer to that guilt inside by venturing into all these CSR activities or just, like compensating on some other, which way is low, we just pump it up with some other activities of us, but that shouldn't be the way. It has to be instilled and incorporated within our psyche itself as the most indispensable traits in any organization. As we embark on this evening of discussion, I'm confident that the insights which will be shared now by all the expertise or a few thoughts which I have thrown upon for the house for discussion will really be of help to you. I have a very interesting poem which I thought, which suits perfectly to the theme line. ஒரு கவிதைக்கும் இங்க நடக்கிற இந்த விஷயத்துக்கும் என்ன சம்பந்தம் இருக்குன்னு நீங்க யோசிக்கலாம். ஆனால் பெட்ரோல் பிரஷோட இந்த கவிதையை நான் காலையில் வாசிச்சப்போ it absolutely synced with the total theme of this today's conclave. அந்த கவிதையுடைய தலைப்பு வந்து தெபஸ் நகர். அது தமிழில் இருக்க டிரான்ஸ்லேஷன். பிரஷ்ட் யூ மஸ்ட் ஆல் பி ஃபேமிலியர் வித் ஹிம். இருண்ட காலங்கள் நிலவும் பொழுது கவிஞர்கள் எதை பற்றி எழுதுவார்கள்? இருளை பற்றி கவிஞர்கள் எழுத வேண்டும் என்று சொன்ன கவிஞன். அவருடைய இந்த கவிதை வந்து எனக்கு மிக பிடித்த கவிதை. இன்னைக்கு இந்த பர்டிகுலர் ஈவினிங்க்கு இந்த தீமுக்கு இது ரொம்ப பொருந்தி போற கவிதையா எனக்கு பட்டுச்சு. I thought I can share it with you and then wind up. 7 வாயில்கள் உள்ள தெபஸ் நகரை கட்டியது யார்? புத்தகங்களில் அரசர்களின் பெயர்களை பார்க்கின்றோம். அரசர்கள் கற்களை தூக்கி கொடுத்தார்களா என்ன? பாபிலோன் நகரம் பலமுறை தரைமட்டம் ஆக்கப்பட்டுள்ளது. ஒவ்வொரு முறையும் அதனை மீண்டும் நிர்மாணித்தவர்கள் யார்? அதனை வென்றெடுத்த அரசர்களா என்ன? போர் தொழிலில் வெற்றி பெற்றவர்கள் எல்லாம் வெற்றி பெற்ற பின்பு வீடுகளை கட்டி அரண்மனைகளை கட்டி வாழ்ந்தார்கள். யார் கட்டிய வீடுகளில் வெற்றி பெற்றவர்கள் வாழ்ந்தார்கள்? சீன பெருஞ்சுவர் கட்டி முடிக்கப்பட்ட மாலையில் கொத்தனார்கள் எங்கே சென்றார்கள்? ரோமாபுரில் நிறைய வெற்றி படைகள், முப்படைகள், அவற்றை எழுப்பியவர்கள் யார்? பாடங்களில் நாம் வியந்து போற்றுகின்ற பைசாந்தியத்தில் வாழ்ந்தவர்களுக்கு மாளிகைகள் மட்டுமே இருந்தனவா? புகழ்பெற்ற அட்லாண்டிக் கப்பலை கடல் கொண்ட பொழுது அந்த இரவில் நீரில் மூழ்கியவர்கள் அப்பொழுதும் தங்கள் அடிமைகளை கூப்பிட்டுக் கொண்டிருந்தார்கள் அல்லவா? இளம் அலெக்சாண்டர் இந்தியாவை வெற்றி கொண்டான் தன்னந்தனியாகவா? சீசர் பிரெஞ்சு மக்களை தோற்கடித்தான். அவனிடம் சமையல்காரன் கூடவா இல்லை? சரித்திர புத்தகத்திலும் அதன் ஒவ்வொரு பக்கத்திலும் ஒரு வெற்றி தவறாமல் பதியப்பட்டு கொண்டாடப்படுகின்றது. அந்த வெற்றியாளர்களுக்கு உணவு சமைத்தது யார்? ஒவ்வொரு 10 ஆண்டிற்கும் ஒரு மனிதனின் செலவை ஏற்றுக்கொண்டது யார்? எத்தனையோ அறிக்கைகள், எத்தனையோ கேள்விகள். இந்த அறிக்கைகள், கேள்விகளை எழுப்புகின்ற என் மனக்குரலை அச்சிலே பதிய வைத்தவன் யார்? அந்த பதிய வைத்த குரலை ஒலிவாங்கியிலே ஒளிபரப்பியவன் யார்? கேள்விகளுக்கும் பதில்களுக்கும் இடையே மனித முகங்கள் மட்டுமே நிலைத்து நிற்கின்றன. The last sentence is mine. The poem ends with that யார்? இதை விட அருமையா நீங்க டைவர்சிட்டி, இன்க்ளூசிவிட்டி, ஈக்குவிட்டியை பத்தி பேச முடியாதுன்னு நினைக்கிறேன். இந்த கவிதை சொல்லுகின்ற இந்த விஷயம்தான் இன்னைக்குடைய கான்க்ளேவுடைய தீம் லைன்னு நான் நினைக்கிறேன். என்னுடைய இந்த கவிதையில் இருக்கின்ற சில வரிகள் உங்களை தூங்கவிடாமல் செய்யும் பொழுது இங்கே உங்களோடு பகிர்கின்ற பலருடைய சிந்தனைகள், அவர்களுடைய அந்த தெரிப்புகள் இவற்றை நீங்கள் எடுத்துச் செல்லும் பொழுது பிரஷ்டையும் நீங்கள் எடுத்துச் சென்றால் நான் மிக மகிழ்வேன். நன்றி. தேங்க்யூ வெரி மச்.
Thank you so much, madam, for such an inspiring and insightful talk, and we have a big round of applause for her once more as well. At this time, I'd like to invite Mr. L.V. Navaneet, CEO of the Hindu Group, to felicitate our chief guest, Dr. Thamizhachi Thangapandian. With big round of applause, let's welcome Mr. L.V. Navaneet on the stage. Thank you, madam. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming Ms. Meena Sinha, Vice President and Head of Human Resources at RRD. With big round of applause, let's welcome Ms. Meena Sinha onto the stage. Good evening everyone. Indeed a very, very large gathering, and I think the gathering is so large because of the topic that we are talking about. So I will start by thanking the Hindu group. I'm thanking the Hindu group because the topic that you have chosen for this conclave, the topic truly touches everyone's heart, and you can see that by the participation, you can see that by the passion that is displayed on the face of the people. So when we talk about DI, this is a topic from the heart. This is a topic which is not something that whether you do or you don't do. This is imperative. If we want to be in a society which is inclusive, a society in which everyone is cared for, it is imperative that it is there. Standing here, and in fact when I was coming here, I was thinking that about this inclusion summit. And in my mind, I felt very privileged. And the reason for feeling very privileged was because we as leaders, the kind of power that is there in our hand, the power to make change, the power to make policy changes, the power to make the impact on the society with those kind of policy changes. But something which we should always be very, very, very cautious as leaders is, the power is there in our hand, the privilege is there in our hand, but how responsible are we? The key point here is how responsible are we? And in terms of responsibility, when I talk about, what is important is, are we doing things for the sake of doing? Because it is the coolest thing to do. Everybody is working for DI. Everybody wants, a name that, we did this initiative, we did that initiative. Are we doing it for the sake of doing it? Or are we truly doing it because it makes sense for the business? So at RRD, the reason we associated ourselves with this conclave is because of the topic that you chose. Because at RRD, with our 160 years of legacy, we have been in the business for 160 years, and inclusion is like a fabric there which binds us together. So when we talk about any practice on the inclusion side, on the diversity side, for us, first and foremost, it must make business sense. It must make business sense because anything that will make business sense will only be sustainable. And we are not here to do something that this is the flavor of the season, we did it, everybody did it, so we also at RRD did it. We will not do. If anyone will come and study our organization closely, they will see that every kind of initiative, every kind of change, it has to make business sense. And that's why today I will talk about three initiatives, just in the interest of time. I'll talk about three. And each one of them is underlined by business reason. The first one which I will talk about is our work on impact sourcing. So about 8 years back, when we got into impact sourcing, we were thinking of what is it that we should be doing for society. And we thought, what better than impact sourcing, where we take the work to where the people are. Now, most of the time, the work has to come, the people have to come where the work is. They have to come to the large city. Now, imagine how uncomfortable are people from the rural areas where actually the talent is resting to come to this place and make themselves comfortable, have the baggage of being judged, how difficult it is. So years back when we went to the foothills of Himalayas in a very beautiful place, Kasoni. We set up our center there. And, we had to, of course, train the people. And there were a lot of, in our mind, the worry and doubt, how successful it would be. Of course, we did our training, we did everything. You will be very, very surprised that the whole initiative was so successful that we have recently kicked off our fourth center, not in Kasoni, in another place, because it was that successful. Of course, there was challenges of productivity, quality, which will be there everywhere. But what was so satisfying was the enthusiasm of the people. What was so satisfying was the change that we were making in that place, Kasoni. What would have been the life of the girls there? They would have either gotten married or they would have gone to the farm and worked. Now, both are not the areas that would have been something of their choice. Now, when they came to the workplace, when they worked and they became financially independent, we know the impact that caused to the society there. And we could see that change. So encouraged by that initiative, in fact, in Sri Lanka as well, in a place called Amblamgoda, we set up our center, which is about 200 kilometers from Colombo. Oh, you should see the enthusiasm of the employees there. They dress up more professionally than us. They are so smart. They come, zero absenteeism, no attrition, and so very, very productive in their work. The next we set up in Vellore, and recently we set up in the Pudukkottai district in Tamil Nadu. And because the whole initiative has been successful because we have taken the work to where the talent is. We have not called the talent to come and work at our workplace. And that is the reason for the success. And I'll tell you one very interesting fact about Pudukkottai. So the work in Pudukkottai which is being done, so here is an inclusion initiative, our impact sourcing, right? Now the work which is being done in Pudukkottai is, these people are working on documents which is basically making documents accessible for the visually impaired. So they're working on documents which will be accessible for the visually impaired. So imagine this inclusion leading to another inclusion, isn't it? So this inclusion leading to another inclusion, and for us, the work that we are doing on the whole work on accessibility remediation, because there's a lot of work that we are doing in that area, and because as RRD, we are committed that, we want to give a digital world, which is everyone has the right to that world. Everyone can, access that digital world. So in fact, in 2019, so I'm talking about the second initiative, which is the work that we are doing for the visually impaired through the accessibility remediation. We built our own product. We call the name of the product is Remediate. We built it in 2019-20, and it basically helps the visually impaired people to access documents. Now this product of ours, so the product also that we are building is something which will lead to inclusion at mass scale level, because this product has been adopted by large corporations globally. So imagine the power of the product to make the change. Imagine the power of the product to bring about the kind of inclusion. So everything with us in RRD is very important, that it must make business sense. So having talked this much about inclusion, diversity is also very, very close to our heart. Something which we all are very, very passionate about. So about 17 years back, in 2007, when RRD established its own entity here, one of the first things that we set up was a group, what we called as Women's Own Network. Now, why did we call it Women's Own Network? Because we wanted the network to be owned by the women themselves. And this whole network was set up on three-pronged strategy. The strategy one was, of course, improve the diversity numbers, more women at workplace. It is not always best to have homogeneous groups. We all know that. It's not always best to have homogeneous group. So we definitely wanted more women in our fold. We also wanted to set up this group so that it becomes like a, support network to other women. So when you have a support network, it's like, at home away from home, then that becomes a reason for women to gravitate to this kind of workplace. And the third one was, again, making a lot of business sense, was promoting more women to leadership positions. And in 17 years, I will tell you, Women's Own Network has become like a, movement within R.R. Donnelly. We have done the number of programs, and there are many of the leaders here from R.R. Donnelly who are there, who were middle managers at that time. And I see them as senior leaders now because of the kind of grooming that we did. My personal passion is more women in the boardroom. That is my personal passion. And through the Women's Own Network initiative, we have hundreds of women. We mentored them, we got them the coaches, we did the development program, and you should see how they have flowered and how they have taken the opportunity and how they have grown in the organization. Now people have come together, the women themselves have come together to bring up such beautiful programs. I'll just bring up one of them. One of our group is work for the insurance companies, insurance group, and we employ a lot of women. And they were facing attrition, and then they went and did their diagnosis as to why are we facing this attrition, when are we facing this attrition, and they realized that people, when they go on maternity leave, they're not coming back. So the women of that group got together and they formed like a network. So it became like that whenever somebody was about to go on maternity leave, these people were the ones hand-holding, telling them about things, do's, do-nots, keeping in touch with them through the maternity, and telling them what has to be done, not have to be done, and then easing them when they came back. And the kind of, the change that we saw in terms of the retention numbers was whopping. In fact, we have this annually, we have an event where we present best practices. That one got the award for the kind of, how they moved the needle through that. And that is just one of them. So one of the things in RRD has been very important. All the work that we do on DI, there's nothing mandated. It comes from the people. It comes from our colleagues. So it is very, very people-centric, where they bring up initiatives. Our council has got people of all generations there. Recently, our president was visiting, and you should have seen the youngest ones of them. They were presenting and so passionate about this topic. So very passionate. And so there is no mandate. There is no mandate. As an organization, we don't believe in mandate. We don't believe in numbers. We believe that do what is right for the organization. So the Women's Own Network has had beautiful result in terms of the numbers that we have increased in the leadership positions, in terms of the women, how they find this an easy place to be in, and they find the support network around. So that was the third initiative. Now there is one more. I didn't think of talking about this earlier, but if I will not, I'll feel bad about it. So I will talk about it. So this is an initiative that we did for people with motor disabilities. So now you will hear about a lot of companies employing people with motor disability, but that was not so earlier. People with motor disability, they came with years of baggage, and they had a very different mindset because they were not getting employed. So we were thinking about what should we be doing for people, what should be the right thing to do. So one of the things that we do very well is our training programs are very good, and so when we have people joining us from campus, how we transform them in 3 months. So we said we are very good in training people. Why don't we just take a group of people with motor disability, and we will not take them as employees. We will just take them, train them, and then we will see how they are flourishing in the corporate world. I'm not praising my own company, but the transformation in 3 months. The first day when they came, they all would come with their parents. They would not talk. They would hardly introduce themselves. And in 3 months' time, at their graduation time, it was like, a seed which was hardly they had flowered. And to the extent that during the graduation, we would have tears in our eyes. The kind of transformation which was there. And what we did is, for those people, we said we will open them out to the industry. And all of them got employed. In fact, we were called by NASSCOM to do train the trainer program. They said that you must train in this kind of training so that other organizations, benefit, and they train as well. So we did work there as well. So there's a lot of work that we have done in areas which truly makes business sense. A lot of work, and the recent one which we are doing on the neurodivergent inclusion, that is another area that we are working on. So the core to us is work on area which makes business sense, work on areas which will have long-term effect, because if it is going to be short-term, it's of no use. It will just be a flavor of the season and no use. So when I was talking initially about the privilege that we have, I will say the responsibility also that we have is when you are doing any program for your company, because I know there are people here from human resources side, I know there are middle managers, I know that there are people from the corporate world. When you are doing program, do what is right for your organization. Do not ape, because it is not one size fits all. Even the returnship program, Dr. Sandhya, you have done a lot of the returnship programs and all that. But even in that, there is a lot of customization which has to happen. For that particular organization, there has to be a customization. So I would say do programs which is for your organization, which will work for you, because that is where you will see that there is a meaningful difference. And that is what should be your satisfaction, that you made a meaningful difference. The other one, which is very important advice that I will leave you with, is listen to the people. Listen what they are talking. What are the people talking in your organization, and what do they want? As we say, here, listen, because it's very important, because when you listen to the people, then you are bringing up programs which actually will be successful. So I actually can go on and on about our programs, but just in the interest of time, these were a few that I wanted to, talk about. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Meena Sinha, for the wonderful presentation. I now invite Mr. Sundaresan, Vice President, Advertisement, Hindu Group, to felicitate Ms. Meena Sinha for her contribution. With a big round of applause, let's felicitate the wonderful speaker. Thank you so much, madam. Up next, we have Dr. Soundarya Rajesh, founder and president of Alta Group, who will share her expertise on the power of diversity and inclusion. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together and welcome Dr. Soundarya Rajesh.
It's absolutely wonderful to be here, especially with our Honorable MP, Dr. Thangapandian, who is so amazingly fluent both in English and Tamil. How is that possible? I thought you were a PhD only in English, but you seem to be poetic both in English and Tamil. Ms. Meena Sinha, it was wonderful listening to you. I have a presentation, and I think in one of the slides we now have to put R.R. Donnelly's logo over there, because we will need to use you as a case study for how diversity can be very intentional. That was fantastic to hear you. Thank you, Navneet, for this opportunity. Thank you, the Hindu group. I'm so grateful that we actually have an evening here in Chennai devoted to speaking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Now, I'm sure all of you are here wondering about how inclusive leadership and the HR fraternity and everything that we do in the name of business, how all of this is linked. And I just want to share, thoughts about somebody who actually represents inclusive leadership. This was a gentleman who actually worried about where stray dogs would go when they were building a huge plant for one of his businesses. This was the gentleman who, when a big idea promoted by his team did not go down in the way that one expected, stood by that team and said that we will see this to its conclusion. This was the gentleman who, when there was a huge crisis, a huge problem that took place which shook the country, decided that the most important course of action for that business would be to take care of the employees of the hotel which actually faced that problem. I'm sure all of you know which inclusive leader I'm talking about. Yes, it's the departed late Mr. Ratan Tata of the Tata Group, for whom diversity, equity and inclusion and CSR was actually just the way of life. In fact, when I was growing up, and that was not so long ago, okay, when we were in college and when we were, hearing the advertisements by the Tata Group, they would have this amazing advertisement for Tata Steel, in which they would show everything that was taking place in the community. Very similar to what you described, Ms. Meena, about what you did in the foothills of the Himachal. In the same way, how various communities grew, hospitals got built, people were educated, and all of this happened, and finally the byline was, we also make steel. Thank you, Navneet. So, we also make steel. By the way, we also do our business, which is making steel. But what we are here is to actually cause social change. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is actually the sum and substance of what I'm going to speak to you today. What is inclusive leadership and why is it important for your business? So let's just look at all the cultural challenges which many of you would be facing in your respective organizations. The zeros factor. There is that one leader, and the leader's overpowering presence dominates the entire narrative of your workplace. So where does diversity have any space over there, right? And then you have the greenhouse effect. The greenhouse effect, the chatter within the organization, very similar to the greenhouse gases, just keeps going around in your workplace, and you don't have influences from outside actually coming in, changing the way you think. The greenhouse effect. The Xerox aftermath. So, you all have of course heard of the Xerox company, right? At one point of time, it used to be synonymous with photocopying. It was a generic term used instead of photocopying. So, have you bought that Xerox? You can't buy the Xerox because it's a multi-billion-dollar company. But you can get a photocopy for 1 rupee 50 paise, right? But did you know that the world's first consumer computer, the PC that we speak about, was actually manufactured by Xerox? You wouldn't know that because they dumped that idea and they went on to just focus only on photocopying. Imagine if they had gone down that route. They would have given tremendous competition to the Apples and the IBM computers of the world. Am I right? So you have that effect in organizations where certain ideas are not really picked up and grown. And then finally you have the learning clog, which is what the organization learns is so much, it's huge, but what actually peters down to individuals is as if there is a big clog and only those little drops of knowledge actually pass down. So these are all cultural challenges which every organization has. And Am I here to tell you that diversity, equity and inclusion is the solution for all of that? Yes, I am. Because that is the only way in which you can solve all of these problems. Right? Now let me ask you a few questions. Just answer true or false. DEI would mean that it is focused only on large companies, big scaled up organizations. You can't have DEI in small companies. Is that true or false? Absolutely false. Because DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, has to be there in every organization for it to survive even. Tech companies are the only ones benefiting from DEI. You know, I have my friend Maya here from Cognizant, and of course Ms. Meena Sinha, and you know, many colleagues here who are from the industry, and yes, tech companies do benefit tremendously from DEI. No questions about it. But are they the only ones benefiting? Definitely not. Yeah? DEI is the same as CSR. Yeah? Some people, you know, I'm talking long back when I started Avatar. That was the year 2000, and I have my co-founders here, Umashankar Kandaswamy and Karthik. And at that point of time, you know, when we used to go to the various organizations and knock on their doors and say, you know what, we represent women, and that too women who have dropped off the workplace. Those are the kind of women we place. And they would look at us, you know, very quizzically and say, have you lost it? Do you even think there is a business case? And to some of those people, I have to tell you, 24 years later, 2 lakh women have been placed and got back into the workplace because of Avatar, simply because of the fact that we said, yeah, it's a crazy idea, but we want to make it work. We want to make sure that women who take a break in their career for whatever reasons, they find an opportunity to come back into the workplace. And you're right, Ms. Sinha, when you say that it can't be one size fits all. You have so many different kinds of women who take breaks for so many different reasons. And to make sure that you have them represented in the workplace takes a lot of effort. So DEI is not CSR. DEI is not a favor you do to anybody. You pursue diversity, equity, and inclusion because your business needs it. So that's the thing. It's not just a LinkedIn gimmick. You know, sometimes during the International Women's Day, I feel embarrassed. So many, you know, messages and this and that glorifying women and all that. And you must have seen this, you know, some of these memes. After the next day of March 8th, on March 9th, the poor mother or housewife or career woman, she is relegated to the absolute background because all the celebration is done. Yeah? So, no, DEI is not a LinkedIn gimmick. It's very serious stuff. And it is one that all of us have to really believe in and actually commit to. Yeah? Building a robust culture with DEI requires a huge budget. Meaning if you need a strong, diverse, equitable, inclusive culture in your organization, you better keep the big dollar signs ready, okay? Or you have these big, deep pockets. Absolutely no. This is definitely false. You can have zero budget DEI. At the end of my presentation, I will have a slide on zero budget DEI, which everybody here, whether you're a small business, large business, one-person army, you can still do that, yeah? To believe in DEI, you have to be politically aligned to the left. Okay? I have Dr. Thamizhachi here, and she gave such a fantastic overview, and the last poem that she read out truly brought about the global nature of what inclusion is all about and how that is similar everywhere. In every country, it's the same. You know, one could say that diversity is something that a certain section of people with a certain set of values are the ones speaking more about. But I can tell you that with regard to, can we close the door, please? Can we close the door? Yeah, if you can just close it, yes. Thank you. Yeah, so there is no politicization of DEI. It is needed by every state, by every country, by every community, by men, by women, by everyone. So if you thought that DEI is only for women, no. If you thought it's only for the queer people, it's not for heterosexuals, no. If you thought it was only for people with disability and not for people without disability, no. It is for everyone. Every single one of us is actually intersectional in many ways. I may come from a rural part of Tamil Nadu with not much of English language capability, and I could be someone who comes into Chennai and is completely flabbergasted by what I see around me, exactly the way you described. Or I could be somebody who's a male, but a single parent. And so the unique challenges I face are something completely different from what a married male with a housewife at home would face. So each one of us is a diversity candidate. Let me say that. Yeah? So if you look at diversity, do only Gen Zs and millennials appreciate it? I saw a lot of Gen Zs here, they were clapping and everything. So is it that DEI is something that Gen Zs and millennials get? True or false? False? True. It's actually true. Research says that millennials and Gen Zs are born into a world that already is familiar with diversity, equity, and inclusion. Whereas if you look at the Gen Xs, right, or baby boomers, they find it very, very difficult to grasp this because they think that, the world view that they hold is the only one. Yeah? And then it's not an India thing. Oh, this DEI thing, all of this is Western stuff. Americans speak about it, and then, Europeans speak about it, but we in India, we don't. How many of you have learned unity in diversity in your second standard? All of us, right? This is the land of diversity. Every 100 kilometers, you have a different cuisine. Every 200 kilometers, you have a different language, different literature, different poetry, different absorption of the human experience. So this is very much a land of diversity, and DEI is very much an Indian thing. We didn't call it that. We probably called it social justice. Why is Chennai the number one in the top cities of India? Chennai is the number one. Did you know that? Amongst more than 112 cities which feature in the top cities for women in India research produced by Avatar every year, Chennai is number one. And the reason for that, it deserves a big round of applause. We're sitting here in Chennai, right? The reason for that is the focus on social justice, which many, many governments have actually done in this country, in this city. So that has caused women's education to be a big thing. That has caused, the ability to look beyond divides to be a big thing. So these are all reasons why women feel safe in Chennai, and it's the number one city. So if you look at all of those aspects, definitely DEI is an India thing. It's just that we called it by different names. And finally, companies can grow even without DEI. True or false? You know the answer? False. Companies can only grow with DEI. You may call it by different names. You need diversity of products, don't you? Do you need products which are different, catering to very, very different audiences? Don't you need inclusion of many different customer segments? Don't you need inclusion of different kinds of investors? Don't you need equity at every stage? Yes, all of this is required, and therefore DEI is here to stay. Yeah? Now let's quickly look at these definitions. This is just so that we are clear about what we are talking. Diversity, just the appreciation and the presence of differences, right? Any kind of difference. any type of difference. Equity, ensuring fair treatment, not equal treatment. Please don't confuse equality with equity. They're very different. Equality is the goal. Equity is how you give customized different support systems, like giving 6-month maternity leave to a woman. You can't talk about equality there, right? So that is equity. Inclusion is just how you feel that environment in which you are a part, where you feel differences don't matter. That is inclusion, right? Where you can feel welcomed, respected, you feel completely supported. That is inclusion. And then finally, this is what happens when diversity, equity, and inclusion are present. You truly belong. It's your home, it's your office, it's your company, it's your team, it's your department. And you just say that I will do it because this is me, and you belong. So what does it really do? You know, Ms. Meena Sinha actually just kind of took my thunder there when she spoke about all of those 4, aspects. But I'm just going to quickly go and tell you what happens in DI when it is strategic. So you have the business case, where you focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion because it actually brings you more business. Very simple, okay? Nike created an amazing sportswear for women who wear hijab. Fabulous, isn't it? Honey, which is a type of ice cream, they created a chickpea flavor because a certain group actually loves that flavor in Western India. Patagonia created a type of shoes which was very specifically for people with disability. Yeah? So they discovered new markets on account of diversity. Now, let's look at the talent case. Yeah? You focus on DEI because you want better talent and you want the talent to be loyal, to demonstrate discretionary effort. Dr. Reddy's did a fantastic job of hiring second career women for a project which they called SHE, Senior Hospital Executives. And these women would go and they would only focus on hospitals and they would only speak to doctors of a certain age. And they were able to connect because they're second career women. And guess why women drop off the workforce? What is the biggest reason? Childcare, childbirth and childcare. So when you already have that experience and you're going and talking to doctors, you come from a very different space. So Dr. Reddy, similarly Marriott, one of the hotel chains that has the largest number of women, not just women, women of color, right? So it makes a great deal of sense because when you have customers of color visiting those hotels, they feel very comfortable. Oh, this is enga mentioned mari irukangale. Apdi, that thought, oh, this is us. I'm able to connect with them. Yeah? And then finally you have the culture case. Yeah? Why do you need diversity? When the biggest VUCA event in all of our memory, the COVID pandemic hit us, do you know what helped companies to really come back together? It was DEI. It was the culture. It was when companies really felt that we have to come together to face this problem together. So whenever you're looking at any kind of cultural issue, do you have DEI in that company? Do you have inclusion in that company? So if you take all of these aspects and you say, what should the inclusive leader really be? Here's a simple A, B, C, D of it, right? So what can you do? First, create awareness of diversity. Just talk about it, have town halls, address your teams. You can have a 3-member team, you can have a 300-member team, you can have a 3,000-member company. Talk about diversity. Be aware of it. Build belongingness. Make everyone feel included. Tell them, if you're not hearing a voice, say that, hey, I didn't hear you say. I didn't hear you contribute to this meeting. What was it you wanted to say? I want to hear your voice. Make them feel that they belong, that they matter. And then you can have the C and D. Commitment to inclusion, and demonstrating inclusive behavior. See, you can talk DEI all you want, You can stand up on podiums like this and say, we are DEI, we do this, we do that. But if in that particular instance at workplace, somebody says, I didn't feel that I mattered, I didn't feel that I belonged, then no point in all of that DEI. So you have to demonstrate that inclusive behavior. So all of this can be very easily done by HR leaders, and you can do that at zero cost. So what can you do? All of these things. You can commit to DEI. You have to have a POSH policy. Whether you are a small company, large company, you are a political party, you are a FMCG company, you are a press, you are a college, whatever you may be, do you have a POSH policy? Do you have an internal complaints committee, right? How do you celebrate special days of commemoration? How do you make your office accessible to all? And how do you de-bias yourself? So, if you go to www.avatarinc.com, avtarinc.com, that's our website, and just do a Google search on Dirty Dozen. So you won't get any of the Hollywood movie hits. This is actually 12 most dangerous biases. Dirty Dozen, the 12 most prominent biases. Please read up on that article. It's just free for download. Go to www.avatarinc.com, search for Dirty Dozen and download that article. Print it out and put it on your desk. And every time you have a conversation with someone, just go through those 12 biases. And believe you me, your conversation will be that much more clear, very fair, and definitely not prejudiced. Yeah? So all of these are simple things. You can do this free of cost. And you can take these intentional actions too. You can build, a DEI strategy. You can audit your policies and practices. I don't know how many of you have audit practices. Do you know that diversity has to be audited? Do you know that inclusion has to be audited? It is important for you to have audit practices. So have audits. Have a focused increase in representation of diverse talent. My colleague, Ms. Usha Pillai, who leads our diversity hiring is over here. And she has, to her credit, managed the large-scale diversity hiring programs of many, many organizations. And it's very crucial because you need those numbers to actually make diversity tick. Calendarize a lot of focus groups. We talk about positive gossip. You all know negative gossip. Yeah, all of us. But what is gossip essentially? Gossip is when you share an interesting piece of information with someone you trust. That is gossip, right? Why don't you make it positive gossip? Talk about DEI, talk about things which are good for women, right? So that can be the way you run your focus groups. And measure everything, because measuring is what matters. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being an amazing audience. It was fantastic talking to all of you, and hope you enjoy this conclave. That's us. This is what we do. Oh, can I just have that slide back, please? If I didn't have it, my team will kill me. Can you just give me that one slide back? That's where we brag about all our clients and everything. Is it back? Thank you. By the way, we are India's top firm in workplace culture consulting, right? So you can actually move the slide by yourself. I'm finding it difficult. It's not listening to me. Nobody listens to me. Yeah. So I know my team is here, and that's why I'm emphasizing that. Nobody listens to me. So that's us, ladies and gentlemen. This is what we do. And these are the clients that trust us. And thank you, everyone, for being an amazing audience. And thank you, the Hindu, for being truly supportive of a local Chennai company that focuses on nation building. Thank you.
Thank you so much, madam, for the wonderful talk. I'd like to invite Mr. Subramanian Ramanathan, Vice President HR, the Hindu, to felicitate Dr. Soundarya Rajesh. With big round of applause, let's welcome Mr. Subramanian Ramanathan. Congratulations, madam. We now move on into our first panel discussion on strategies for promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion. Please join me in welcoming our panelists to the stage. Ms. Maya Srikumar, Vice President of Human Resources Cognizant. Ms. A. Swarna Sita, Head of Talent Department, AI and Cloud TCS. Ms. Anvesa Sen, Head of Human Resources, St. Gobain Grindwell Norton Limited. The session will be moderated by Ms. Akila Srikanta Rao, Senior Program Manager at RRB. Let's give them a huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
Absolutely, it's a great pleasure to be here, and it's not a pressure, it's pleasure. And it's really amazing to see this room full of people who are very eager. Yeah? Yeah, so thanks for the chief guest being with us for this long, but it's amazing to see the room full of people who are very eager and waiting to learn more about our favorite three words, DEI, diversity, inclusion, and equity and inclusion, right? So for some of you who might not know about me, for last 7 years there is something that I've learned, right? Innovation, right? Innovation thrives when different perspectives collide, collaborate, and create something new. And I think this panel discussion here, I think we are just trying to do that, where we will not just be having a discussion, it's not just a conversation, where we will try to get deeper into the topic about diversity, equality, and inclusion, which is not just three words, which is the most powerful three words, I would say. It would be the powerful three words if it gets out of the PowerPoint presentation as is actually in action, right? So with that said and done, I have three amazing, powerful women on stage with me here, who you might think are coming from a very different industry background, IT, service, and manufacturing, etc. But they all have something in common that drives them, right? They just want to create more inclusive workspace. So with that said, I think when we talk about DEI, it's very vast. So let me kind of try to get deeper and start off with my favorite topic, which is gender inclusivity. And as I'm a millennial, I'm also going to ask probably our first speaker on the panel, Maya, to talk a little bit about frameworks and DEI structures that Cognizant has in terms of gender and generational inclusion that you guys run with?
Hey, thanks, Akhila, for the opportunity. Before I get started, when Soundarya was asking that question on, do you believe companies can grow without DEI, and true or false? Actually, everybody sitting behind me was saying true.
True.
Which means many in the room believe that companies can grow without DEI, which is a fact. Today, many companies that have grown so big do not have such high diverse percentages, but it cannot sustain. That growth is what I think the model of the whole conversation has been so far. So coming to the question of what Cognizant has. So as all of you know, Cognizant has more than 350,000 employees. We are across the globe, like name any place we are there. So imagine implementing very impactful DEI practices is going to be very complex, isn't it? Because we are not talking about a small city or a place. So investing in a DEI team itself, which I am a part of, that itself is a strategic start point. But the three things I want to mention is the biggest requirement for the strategy to work is to have leadership accountability. So if you take our CEO Ravi, he was here, he meets a team, but he meets the media and he announced a program called Shakti. So Shakti is a program which kind of looks at bringing women from, not only from within the company, but outside the organization itself. How do we bring a lot more women to the workplace? And we partner with NASSCOM to a large part of the journey. So in the leadership accountability, it's not about just CEO and the tone at the top, but everybody below that CEO and the next level driving that change. And when I say this, it might look like we have done that and we are like the best at it. No, we are not. We are just attempting and we are trying to bring that accountability in every leader. So that is the first thing. They need to lead the change, they need to be celebrating the role models, all of that. Second comes about when you have such large organization, how do you mobilize the workforce to feel included? So we have something called as affinity groups. Affinity groups is like the ERGs or the allies you can call, but we have almost 30% of our workforce part of affinity group, and we have 8 affinity groups, which is Women Empowered, Embrace is for LGBTQ+, then Unite is for people with disability, we have Blink for Black and Latino, all of that. So there are multiple affinity groups where employees can be a part of, and they have monthly programs. So every month they connect, they talk about what needs to be done, what is the agenda that we can have, who do we bring as speakers. So that's the second biggest thing. Third in the strategy is how do you integrate your process? I think Meena spoke about it, Soundarya, everybody spoke about, it's not doing events. Like Women's Day, you do something for people with disability. It is integrating to the process. And what I mean by integrating to processes, again, Meena spoke about impact hiring.
I'm going to say a poem, a Tamil one, which ends with Papa in every line. And you're going to say the Papa and I'm going to say rest of the words. Are you ready? ஓடி விளையாடு நீ ஓய்ந்திருக்கலாகாது கூடி விளையாடு ஒரு குழந்தையை வையாதே ஒரு குழந்தையை வையாதே. Okay, that's our motto, inclusion without exception, right? That's what we believe in TCS as our motto. We want to make sure that everybody is included, and that's what we do really best. So specifically, I was asked to talk about the person with disabilities and all of that. But then I'd like to touch on the motto and say that we have our pillars where people spoke about representation, their equal rights, equity, and all of that. But I'll touch on one specific pillar, which is enablement, right from policies to infrastructure, where everything is taken care of. The global DEI policy that we have, which specifically brings out accessibility standards which have to be met, both digital and physical, is taken care of by the organization. I would like to bring out certain examples of person with disabilities here. When we having an internal conversation, it's a story that I'd like to bring about. Akhila asked me, what about cerebral palsy? So here is an example that I'd like to quote to all of you. It might be a very controversial one, but I would like to bring it out here.
We had an employee having cerebral palsy. We recruited because of expertise, because we believe that expertise is inclusion, and we would like to build talent that way. So we had an employee with cerebral palsy, building up very well. We trained the person, did very well. In fact, this person did very well with the client-facing engagement, went on a deputation on site, and was back, and was poached by our competitor. Now, the question is, did we win or lose? What do you think? What do you think? Yes, we thought that we won because we could show even other organizations that person with disabilities could make a difference. This is one example. When it comes to accessibility, TCS has got a Center of Excellence for Accessibility, which is led by a visual impact person and not necessarily having people with disabilities. It has got a team with all sorts of capabilities, not necessarily with disabilities. And my own classmate who studied with me in college is a HR person with TCS who is visually challenged, who uses screen readers and does recruitment, doing very well. And he was one of the speakers when we did post-offer engagement for India students, talking about how they can do very well with TCS. So here, we do not differentiate between who is who, but always make sure that everybody is treated with a lot of respect, and this is what drives us, which is part of the Tata Code of Conduct and the TCS core value system. Thank you.
Thanks, Swarna. I think what you said really sticks, right? We don't want to differentiate somebody, and definitely we want to build more diverse environment, which is both inclusive, not just equitable, but also everybody can be their absolute self. So in the next set of questions that I want to pose for the panelists, I would like to sort of understand your persona as a leaders. How has your journey been through the DEI initiatives that you've been running? What are the challenges you have faced, or what was the resistance that you have got in your company and the personal learnings that you have had? So I know Cognizant recently has this Coimbatore site, right, which is almost has 16K, 17K employees. That is vast scale. I mean, it's not easy to run a DI program even just for 500 people. But at that scale, how did you do it, and what are your learnings from that?
So to Swarna from TCS, I hope Cognizant hired that person with cerebral palsy. I just need to see, in a stage when you have TCS and Cognizant, you have to expect this kind of conversations. Yeah. No, and she mentioned the 35%. The Cognizant is 39%. So I have to compete with that.
Some healthy competition happening.
Yeah. So coming to challenges and personal story here, right? Like Akhila said, so I head the operations for Cognizant Coimbatore, where we have almost 17,000 associates, and 49% of the associates are women at Coimbatore Cognizant. And here, through the journey of so many years, building that kind of workforce, it's like an informal setting that we have with women. We created a council which we call SWAYAM, and there are a lot of women who actively participate, and each one of us, if you ask me, I can name 15 of them who will rally behind me if I said that we have to do the same way. Behind those 15, they can bring another 15. So we have built a network of specifically women. I wouldn't say again we are ahead when it comes to LGBTQ or PWD, but at least from a women power we have done that. But when you ask about challenges in the organization, I want to ask the audience, at least any one of you, what do you think an organization like Cognizant or TCS that has more than 3 lakh, TCS has like 6 lakh 30,000 employees, right? What do you think will be the biggest challenge to implement diversity, equity and inclusion? What do you think will be our biggest challenge? Anyone?
I hear consistency.
Consistent, where is it? Some consistency, okay. Any other point? What could be the biggest challenge? Finding people with the right skills. Productivity. Uniform messaging. Anything else? Acceptance. To me, the intent, somebody said consistent, the intent, the intention to be diverse, to be inclusive in a very consistent way across the organization, it's very difficult to sustain that. We can do events, it can bring small changes, it can bring some large changes for a moment. So to me, the biggest challenge I feel today also is the consistency in the intent to be truly diverse. And how many male allies come forward? We spoke about 39% women, which is overall, but if you look at leadership levels, it is very low. Right, all the organizations struggle with having women or diverse talent, whether it is all the spectrums. So to me, I can speak in this forum and say that biggest focus that I would want to bring in this role is how can more male allies come forward and lead the change along with us. And we need more women leaders on at the senior leadership roles, and I think male allies can play a very big role in that. Because what you do outside the work from a societal engagement, there also you have to bring a change, and the same change you have to bring within the company as well, where you respect, you feel that they are having the right skills. Just one more point I will say, in a recent conversation outside the organization, we were talking about, okay, how do we bring more women leaders? And then this person who is a senior leader in that company said that, no, it's very difficult. I said, maybe you'll have to look at rotating some men and bringing women. Then his immediate response was, if you rotated those men and brought women, wouldn't the productivity be impacted? Wouldn't there be no work that, I was like, there you go, the bias again, right? You're thinking that when women come and do leadership roles, maybe they cannot perform like men. So it is like an unconscious bias sometimes there. So more male counterparts, allies should come forward, and I think that's the biggest focus area for us.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that with us. And I think at RRD, right, initially it was one, and we had this ERG group which was quite small. And recently, I think a couple of years ago, we just opened it up for our male allies. And I think our ERG group has grown fourfold, and we have so many more allies that support us and then come up with new ideas, and there is involvement from anybody, right? So moving on to the difficult industry that has the stigma where it's like this is not for women, or this is probably easier if men does it, right? So Anusha, how are you finding intent, and what is your personal learnings from this journey?
So thank God we are not 3 lakhs, because our intent was made very clear. And today, after like 5 years of our journey, we started at 4%, 2019, when the discussion started. Well, today we are not at 49 for sure, but we are at 16, going steady. Sweet 16 we are at, and we want to be 25 by 25. So I think that's been quite a good journey for us. But like you said, it's a very male-dominated industry. But like I started off saying that it's a diverse organization. So we have a GCC, where we are 36%, and we could take initiatives like prototypes we could do there and bring those into other mainstream businesses. So we could show our leaders, our middle level managers, and I think Priya will speak about it later, that how certain initiatives, while we stereotype them as a male job, could be done by a woman with a little bit of tweaking of either an infrastructure. So the mirror line I spoke about, there were men already doing that job. So we identified or found new roles, new positions that could be created, and we got women into that line. So there were referrals that the male were giving us, either of their spouses, relatives, whoever they wanted to come into the organization. So I think the 1 year of conversations that happened, and while you mentioned about a line of women behind you, fortunately for us, we have a group of diversity champions, and they are mostly men. So we identified the notorious guys who can be our champions. So we have a group of diversity champions who are 38 men, and they are plugged into businesses talking about how this is not an HR agenda, but this is a business priority. So that has helped us while, like I said, there were questions why we are good, why do we need to, but we ensure that we do bit-size initiatives, bring in new things so that they identify. So we do also have a program of returnship, it's called Revive. So we started off with our GCC, and then we said we could now bring into R&D, and then maybe soon we can also have it at our shop floors. I think more conversations, sensitization workshops, inclusive hiring, so all that we all talk about. but with a different flavor of manufacturing is what we have been constantly doing and showcasing success stories. So at this point in time, I think what Saint-Gobain is looking at is an outreach program, how we can reach not only in Tamil Nadu, the rural colleges, but across pan-India, reach colleges, show them that their daughters, as in the rural families, and we reach engineering colleges and show how their students can come into the organization and obviously reach the level that we want them to reach.
Yeah, I mean, I wish all the very best for Saint-Gobain to kind of achieve that. I think that's really good, right? And definitely DEI is not a sprint, it is a marathon, right? It's consistency, as somebody said, it is something a long way to go, and I hope you guys reach there as well. So Swarna, I know you are from talent development team and you are currently working for the last 1 year on AI cloud technology. So as a person who is an expertise in this area, how do you see AI and DEI coming together, and what is your personal views for the future?
Not just AI and DEI, I see DEI coming together with a lot of other things as well. And people who are sitting and listening to this conversation, I'm sure you also know a lot that we are speaking. It's not that, we know a little more or something, right? You would resonate very well with whatever I'm going to say. We've been speaking about the approaches. In TCS, the approach is more of a whole system change, wherein a mindset change can come in every individual. So that's the way we approach it. So DEI, more than a standalone, DEI is along with well-being, is along with CSR, is along with many other initiatives, and of course AI is also coming into play. I'll just give an example of an employee, a senior leader who has to give in deliverables, has to deliver, let's say, this evening at 5 p.m. and working for a UK client. At 4 p.m. there's a call from the employee to the manager or the leader who's managing the business group saying, I'm not feeling well, I feel very stressed, and I have been feeling a little low. These are the exact words. And I'm very proud to say that the business group head immediately says, do you need help? Right? Now, we can always question why, but the response of do you need help is something which is the mindset change that I'm talking about, right? So this is the kind of change that's coming up, and in the last 5 years, I think TCS has won close to 59 global awards in diversity, equity, and inclusion. That cannot happen just like that. With AI coming in, the risk factor goes higher. Now, we walk, so not much of safety required. We cycle, a little bit of safety required. We take a bike, then safety has to increase, right? Risks are high. Then if we take, let's say, a flight, then accordingly the risk increases. AI is like that. That's the way we are looking at it. So let's assume that we are going to use it for DEI. We know about the bias it can bring in, but how can we make it work is something, a view that, I would like to take the view of our CTO. Overall for our business, the approach is we should first start with assist, augment, and then transform. It has to be step by step, the maturity levels have to be tested, and then we need to go forward. Now coming to my point of view, I think in DEI, what it can really help is hyper-personalization. Let's take mental well-being. How many of us would like to discuss it with somebody? But if there is hyper-personalization where we are able to find out ourselves and something is able to tell us, right? Hyper-personalization. The next thing is predictability, right? These two, I think, can be major differentiators only if diverse input is given to the machine. If the input is not diverse, it's going to be a huge risk. That's something which is very, very important, which means AI is not a master kid. It is a faster kid. It will learn very fast. It will learn whatever comes its way and then form its own judgment. So what is important is we give diverse learning to it, with a diverse set of individuals. In TCS, we have persona-based learning, even for diversity, equity, inclusion, and well-being. So it's very, very important. One of our leaders spoke about, single men, single women, different age groups, veterans coming into workforce, Gen Z coming into workforce, so persona-based. So when AI is a faster kid, then diverse inputs have to go in, and I called AI a kid, which means I am saying, in my point of view, with experts that I'm talking to, that it's a cognitive being. It's living. Satish Bhairavan, one of our AI experts, keep talking about it, which means we'll have to train it carefully and mandatorily have human in the loop to check if it's right or wrong. Thank you.
Absolutely. I mean, I can hear you say almost like AI is like that toddler who is ready to learn anything and everything. Will definitely get there, but you have to be watchful and mindful what it is learning, right? So before I throw it up for an audience question, let me ask audience a question, right? How many of you here use AI for anything that you want to do around DEI? Can I see a show of hands? Yeah, I see just a few of them, okay, surprising, but I think after today's talk probably that becomes a toolkit for all of us and we start utilizing it not just to write emails or to understand what recipe to make and maybe make use of it in a better way as well. So I think it has been an amazing conversation so far. Let's open it up for audience and if they have any questions. Can we have the mic for the audience? Who wants to go first?
I think the easy
I'm going to ask the audience who they want to ask the question so that it's easier for everybody.
Hi, good evening. I'm Sandhya from Srimukha Precision Technologies
Hi, Sandhya.
and Manufacturing MSME Group. And my question goes to Ms. Anmisa. Because what she spoke resonated with what we are currently doing in our organization. My challenge in getting in diversity is that I'm not able to find people, women especially, coming to small sectors, to MSMEs. The corporates like CTS and TCS will not face this challenge, but I face this challenge that I do not have women coming into my industry. It is very difficult. In fact, I have 2 lines set up, specifically manufacturing lines set up for women, and I'm bringing in women workforce from the northern part of the country, from northeast. So I'm not able to get local manpower.
So how do we source
So how do you do that?
Any pointers?
Maybe once I come out of this 3 of us, I'll give you the name of the person who can help you.
I would be extremely grateful.
No, but jokes apart, I think what we at Thangoba have done is we have, like I said, we have been speaking about it so much that we have our current employees come forward and given us references, which has helped because it's more of the organization culture that they are ambassadors of, and then that's what they are taking back home, and they are getting us references from within their network. But along with this, we have, like I said, we have reached out to institutes and tied up with them to for our diploma engineers and other engineering colleges and gone and done presentations of what we are. We are not the Cognizants and the TCS and Infosys, but how diverse we are, and also we emphasize on the safety. Because when we are in a manufacturing setup, safety is very important. Safety as in when they are on the shop floor as well as when they are outside, and if they are living somewhere, we try providing them with as much safety network, a psychological safety as well as a physical safety of them, their well-being, mental and physical well-being. So we also initiated a program where when we hire them, and this is in one of our Bangalore plants, we invite their parents to come and see the place so that they go home satisfied that where their daughters are coming to work. So this is mostly at entry level that we are doing because that is where we want to bring in more and help them make a career with us. So I think these are, like I said, these are small initiatives that we keep doing with the hope that it is going to make big impact. And like I said, two of our lines are all women lines. So if you look into a mirror and it is a Saint Gobain mirror, you do remember it is made by all woman line. So that is what we do.
Thank you for the amazing question.
Hi. So my question is around diversity. So from the whatever was discussed, I get a kind of feeling it might be that diversity more specifically means towards women. But how about the other LGBTQ community? Are we really talking about? It could be to any panel. Yeah? Have we considered having LGBTQ in top positions? Not only top positions, but do we have a policy for LGBT?
Thank you for the great question.
Yeah.
Maya?
Yeah, I'll take that. You brought out a point which we wanted to discuss in this panel itself. So it's very sticky subject actually when you talk about it. Even in organizations when you have 5 generations that coexist, like Soundarya ma'am said, millennials and Gen Zs kind of get into that very fast. But if you take large organizations, how many of the leaders have really, if at all they are there, they have come out and said that they belong to the spectrum? You wouldn't see much in India. While in Western world it is maybe more common, like our CFO, prior CFO had kind of said that. So what we have done, at least Cognizant, what we do is we partner with some of the vendor partners from recruitment firms who provide us those profiles. So specifically, I also used to lead the campus recruitment for India, for Cognizant, where in a year we take almost 30,000-40,000. TCS takes like 80, 50, 60,000. So we initiated a program called Trans in Tech, Transgender in Tech. And personally, I was leading it and I wanted to interview because that was like a personal pet project for me. But it's very difficult to get profiles. So from, within a year itself, we could hire only like 8 of them because during the college times they wouldn't have really come out. So the whole topic of having transgenders or LGBTQ in an organization in India, the availability of talent itself is a bit challenging when it comes to technology. But all organizations, I read a lot about what TCS and Accenture and others, we are all committed to give that space to them. And we have policies, like for example, all of us have support the transition surgery and the continuous support that they need through that 1 year or 2 year phase and the protected environment that we need to give them as they are in the organization. We are all committed to do that, and there is a very high increased awareness across the organizations to support them. So it is a change that is starting. Have we really been able to say that we have high percentage and we are doing so much? We are starting there. We need more workforce to come forward and trust the organizations and be a part of it. That's what I would say where we are in from an LGBTQ journey.
Luckily, by 2020, yeah.
Yep. I agree to what Maya said, and I would like to add just 2 perspectives to this. One, from a policy perspective, yes, we have policies to support it. Even in terms of the insurance provided, right now the family coverage includes same-sex as well. That's a change that's coming up, which is there. And to answer your question of do we have leaders, yes, we do have thought leaders in different sectors, not just in one.
Hi, this is Madhumita here, and my question is for Madam Anvesa. We could able to see a lot of trans people or the complete LGBT community people, persons with disability, and all marginal sector in software sectors, IT and ITES software-enabled sectors. It's easy to notify, as CTS and Cognizant do a lot for us. We could able to see the visibility of trans and the LGBT people directly or as ally. But considering the manufacturing sector, though we apply at managerial or a lead role, where we say we can able to manage people well. In all sort of people we can able to manage well. See, I'm a HR professional. I manage 5 generations in my organization for the last 20 years. 5 generations, different genders. Yeah. Are we not capable to manage people in manufacturing sectors? Is that like the leadership can able to have a different, can able to remove the mask and then see us as talents and skilled so that we also can be a part of manufacturing. There's a huge opportunity than software sectors in manufacturing. Way back, we have been with you for the inception of this world. So why are LGBTQ people or PWD people are not much welcomed in manufacturing sectors? Always the cover and the label of safety, or people will not accept you. Software also been like that. Software people even with a lot of knowledge, intelligence, skilled, talented people, but then they are accepted, right? Similarly, that acceptance can come to...
See, the question is great.
well.
I'm going to actually interrupt. Before Anvesha speaks, I would like to speak on behalf of the Tata Group. Okay, it's not just IT services. TCS is only a part of it. Tata Group has got multiple engineering and manufacturing firms, and there also we have a lot of LGBTQ members coming in. So that's one thing that I'd like to share, because it's not with all manufacturing engineering, and I'm sure Anvesa will have a response, but I can confirm on behalf of Tata Group that we support, and it is working as well. I'm not saying that there are no challenges. There are
Gender. So a competent person is a competent person, and irrespective of where, how, what, if there is a role and there is a competent person, it is a win-win for both. So that's a personal view. Coming to overall manufacturing, I don't think I'm the right person to comment on it, but I will comment on where Sangoba is at this point in time. And like I said, we are opening up the doors. Today, for us, we have just started on gender diversity, and hopefully we will go into bringing in all of other diverse workforce into the organization. And maybe someday, you and me might be working together. So that's all I can say.
Why this question is a lot of viscosity is smaller companies like Coimbatore, tier 2, tier 3 cities, smaller companies can able to give opportunity for PW people, process-wise centric, action-wise centric. They have broken into action and they educate them, train them into a particular sort of list of actions which they can able to 1, 2, 3, other will day 4, 5, 6. So smaller can able to do, bigger can able to do bigger jobs.
Absolutely agree with you, and I think a lot of leaders are listening to this, and I'm sure each of them will have something to take back to their boardroom meeting next time and then take actions on this. In the interest of time, do we have one last question that we can answer? Yeah, I see a hand there. It's on, I guess. Can you speak?
For long we are talking about the industry and institution interaction. It is not taking place. If it takes place, there will not be any problem. The DEI will be implemented automatically. The problem is that the industry don't work with the education institutions, like women's education institutions. They must work with the women's institution, industries, and then they will get more opportunity. Internship and all, that should take place. Even they can work with the handicapped institutions also. The industry should work. They must train them to suit their requirement, skill requirement and risk management and all this everything. They must work in closely with the various kinds of handicapped institutions and also women's institutions.
Right.
Who are giving training in different sectors, including agriculture and all.
Thank you so much. I don't believe there was a question at it, but thank you for the point that you make. Definitely, for making industry ready for being inclusive, I think our education system and our enablement also should support for that equally, and I think it's been an amazing session with you three on stage with me. It was absolutely my pleasure to be here with three great leaders, and I could always sit here and just listen to you guys. Probably I'll save those for your TED Talks when it comes out. So I'd like to thank everybody for being patient with us and asking great questions. Thanks one and all. Thank you.
Thank you, panelists, for the engaging discussion, and thank you, everyone, for the thoughtful questions. Of the day, a huge round of applause for the wonderful panelists and the moderators. Thank you so much for joining us today in the wonderful session. Thank you. Our next panel discussion will explore building competitive advantage through DEI. Please join me in welcoming the panelists, Ms. Sunita Vikram, Managing Director, AGA. With a big round of applause, let's welcome Ms. Sunita Vikram. Ms. Janine Nirmal, Director of Operations, RRD. Dr. Madhumita Gomathinayagam, Manager HR and Operations, Avison Solutions Private Limited. A big round of applause for the three panelists for the second session. So this session will be moderated by Mr. Kunal Shankar, Deputy Business Editor at the Hindu. Let's give them a very warm welcome.
All right. Hi, everyone, and I think this has been quite a lively and engaging first session and really inspiring speeches as well. I'm Kunal Shankar, the Deputy Business Editor of the Hindu, and the theme for our session is building competitive advantage through DEI. So let me first begin by asking our panelists to introduce themselves and their preferred pronouns. Sunita, if I could probably start with you. Or do I have to give you my... Oh, I've taken my... And my preferred pronoun is he, him. I know, sorry.
Thank you so much, Kunal. My name is Sunita Vikram, and I'm the co-founder of Agua Diversity, Equity and Inclusion Services, where we do end-to-end consulting when it comes to culture transformation. Thank you so much for inviting us, and my pronouns are she and her. Thank you.
Thank you.
We do have our share. Happy evening to all MMA and all audience. This is Madhumita Gomathinayagam, India's first transgender HR professional, lifelong learner. I'm currently serving as Manager HR and Operations for Avison Solutions. I'm an independent social worker for persons with a disability. I'm a research scholar as well from SRM University. And things go on. Thank you.
Hi everyone, Janine Nirmal. I have 25 plus years of working experience, and of course I work with a fantastic crew of RRD that's sitting here. The 25 years is not my age. We're just talking about experience as far as what I do professionally, operations, and my passion fruit is DEI.
Fantastic. And you go by?
She and her.
And Madhumita, she and her. Excellent. All right. So, you know, this is one of those not so happy themes, right? Like building competitive advantage through DEI. It's almost should be a no-brainer. We should almost feel like we would. But I think a lot of boardroom discussions across, I mean, in companies globally, big and small, there have been discussions about how DEI is a bit of a tedious process. You know, it takes up time to actually be deliberate about whom you hire and why you hire. And in fact, there were times when affirmative action was seen as a bad word, mostly across companies, and you know, reservation as an issue was seen as a sort of a sticky point, and women coming into the workforce were seen as burdens, especially when we just had one of our speakers speaking about how maternity leave is a right, but they were seen actually as a sort of a burden because that talent is not going to be available for 6 months, but it has to be paid for and whatnot. So in that vein, when we talk about, you know, the competitive advantage that DEI brings, I think, you know, and I've already seen just how passionate Madhumita has been as a participant already. So I think as a panelist, she's just going to be probably a firestorm. So I'll first begin this question with you. How can companies leverage their competitiveness through being deliberate in their hiring practices that will increase gender minorities at workplace? And we're talking just weeks after the Supreme Court of India actually sort of, you know, sent it back to the states, asking them to decide on legalizing gay marriages. And finally, how could the private sector respond to this decision of the Supreme Court through their hiring practices? So, Madhumita.
History can be pro and post 1919, where we get law enactment. We are all got our gender reassignment surgery pro the Transgender Act. So the life was very tough. Though the same education, competency, struggle, everything was there, there was no opportunity, there was no chance, there was no literal seat reserved for you. You sit somewhere or you stand, that's it. The post-legal enactment happened. Then there is a law, when there is a legal systems, judicial intervention is there, then things change around. You come out, the first thing is, anyone for the LGBT community or the transgender people is to come out and say, I'm a trans person. I did it before my the law came. 13 I had my SRS, and then 18 when I was about to resign the job because there was no law, I assumed my clients will throw away, my organization will feel me ashamed of my gender. I thought I'll quit the job. I've tendered my resignation as well after 8+ years dedicated service. Immediately, within not even a single minute, I would have logged up to my system. Immediately I got a call and we need to discuss. It's not from the local, it's from the international office, US office. My founder, President Kanchana Raman called. We are one family. Any problem, we'll decide it together and we'll solve it. The next call was from my CEO Asia Pacific, my boss, Kalpana Anantaraman. Immediately she called me. She discussed with the problem. Monday you are coming on Sari. How should we call you? That's it. There was no law, but the people, the head, the founder, had that inclusiveness in them. Doesn't mean that she was in US and they're all brought up in big companies like GE's. No. Individually, they are all inclusive personalities. So when they have their own down the lane employees, subordinates, who they have identified as male employees, suddenly coming out and say, I am a woman, then the organization will have a shake-up. But then she can able to discuss, and the whole managerial team could able to support me. Then there is a change. The whole life changed. When the family acceptance was not there, and the moment I was going to say, my dad, I'm not going to lose my job, then dad said, okay, we can think about it. I sustained in my home. Else I would have been thrown from my home. My life would have changed. Similarly, the whole system. Though the government initiatives, there are governmental initiatives like a Kerala government is very progressive, Maharashtra government is very inclusive on their promotions, trade promotions and all. Tamil Nadu doing a lot of stuffs for them. Now they are creating exclusive policy. In spite of, it can be anything. The High Court of Madras, the Chief Justice say, do it immediately. I don't want to touch about the negative stuffs, but then it's going progressive. It's moving on. It's something is moving on is good. That's what we always say. It's all women. We say all women police station, it's something like all women is that. So embracing the complete LGBT community, the state is doing a lot, safety, security measures for them. They are drafting even an exclusive LGBT policy in the state. Government can able to do this much. Would private organization who can able to take decisions like us, small organization, SMEs like us can able to do, bigger organization needs to do more. They take more from government. Do I pay GST for my salt? Do I pay income tax for my income? That's all constitute the salary of the President of India and the Prime Minister of India and Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu. Correct? It's written, they need to pay back us through initiatives. Why not the subsidies given for the industries to start, the IT parks to start? Right? It's all our money inside. It's time to pay back. So the competitive advantages, the global eye is opening. The global door is opening. Yeah, unless you are going to be inclusive, you're not going to get business. Tell me in all RFPs, when you have global bidding, it's not the DEI a part of it. It's not a mandatory of it. You need to be accountable for your global communities. You can be submissive, I'm partially okay, I'm partially inclusive. No, partiality is not there. No partiality in anything. You need to be complete, you can't be gray. You can declare yourself black or white, you can't be gray. And you can able to subside all the opportunity, chances for the entire LGBT community, trans people, persons with disabilities. No, small organizations can able to do wonders. Bigger organizations definitely can do wonders. They can create systems. It's slowly starting, but the pace is very slow. How many talented, when we see a persons with a disability, a visually challenged person, when we used to go for scribe, the youth is so confident. They said, my professor told that my whole family is not educated. My appa is a farming labor. When I get educated, my life is going to change, madam. You are going to write my exams. When I write and come outside, there is no opportunity. It's only cries from the visually community people. They said, opportunity is not, madam. When the people with locomotor disability come in a wheelchair, how many corporate boards, rooms are available to accommodate even the wheelchair inside? How many organizations have ramps? How many stages has ramps rather than steps? We need to ask ourselves. So it is when you want business, it is no more charity, it's no more CSR, it's business. You want business, you need to be inclusive. Your organization needs to have a diversified employment. It's time to change all of us, including CXOs and team leads and leaders. Yes.
And on the point of hiring, some of the strategies that actually work also are posting on different job portals, different diverse job portals. Blind hiring, that's a concept that we want to adopt. And the third one would be have diverse panels interview. So that would solidify this.
So to sort of numb down the prejudices and biases that might actually happen. That's really interesting. Blind hiring, that's a...
So essentially what that does is take off all the recognizable personality traits and have only the skill or the content, so to speak.
Yeah. So actually, Madhumita, I think like this honestly, this panel ought to have probably been just with you, because there is so much more to learn from you. But just taking off from that one point you said, there was a cultural shift within the organization when you sort of came out, and that also the fact that your company's top management embraced you, assisted in a sort of a domino effect with your family and so many others. I think that was like a fantastic way of like displaying how Janina, you just spoke, but I wondered if you could also share some examples of how diverse teams within your own organization have led to innovative solutions possibly, and if you've been able to measure these things, it's one thing to actually sort of rhetorically say they've led to innovative solutions.
Absolutely.
But yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, maybe you.
So I'll give you two examples. Innovation can be also process improvements. So we included Gen Z in our hiring training programs and said, what is it that we need to change and alter to ensure that you get the messaging? Because we've had tenured resources in the system understanding the processes to the hilt. However, because we have fresh blood in the system, we needed to understand how we could cater to them. So that's when they came back with the experiential learning, and they said, you know what, don't just give us content. Make it a quiz, have different debates on the subject, why do we have it, and so on and so forth. So I think that's the element that changed for us in our perspective of training. With regards to...
How do you measure those outcomes?
Absolutely. Very simply, I think stickiness. Both client stickiness and employee stickiness. I don't think
you of course head a consulting firm which advises people on how to go about to diversify their workforces. What are some examples where DI initiatives have directly led to increased competitiveness in companies, if you can share?
Absolutely, Kunal. So I think probably the place I would want to start is looking at your customers or looking at the communities. When you look at the community, there's 50% women, 50% men, and of course a large percentage of PWD, LGBT. So if you want to build a cutting-edge product or service, you're looking to serve the entire community. So an example of where we went and did some work, we went to an EV company. All of the hiring team, all of the managers and the senior leaders came. Of course, it's automobile engineering, so it was mostly men who came. A very expensive EV.
Although EV is a new sector, so there's a possibility of bringing in diversity through that.
Yeah, and so their thing was, you know what, Sunita, we're not able to get more talent. We're not able to get more automobile engineers who are women. Okay, so we heard them out. But the bottom line was, then they created the EV, it didn't have a sari guard. It didn't have a sari guard, right? So that means somebody in the design and development team didn't think about their end customer. Who buys the EV? Yes, it is men and the women, but if there isn't a sari guard for a very expensive product, is that really going to have a market share? So that's one example. Another great example is we went to a very large pharmaceutical company, and all of the sales directors sat in the boardroom. They were all men, and there was one woman that they brought in from marketing, and they said, okay, let's talk about getting more medical representatives. And they said, you know what, we're making our sales target. What's the problem? Every year we're making our sales target. But the issue was, it was gynecological products. So it was men selling gynecological products to women who are mostly gynecologists. And then the question was, yes, you're making your market share, but what have you left out? What would be the potential market if you had addressed that?
Right. So really just tailor, I mean, what you're trying to say is if you actually had, like you said, women in those roles, you could have actually had much more customized products, which should eventually have led to more customized designs of the products and then greater sales of them. So a greater competitive advantage.
I just add one personal example because I think it always makes sense. So, you know, I'm somebody who travels late at night, come back from the airport, and before Uber had the four number OTP, Ola had it. So that means someone like me who travels late at night, comes back, would always prefer Ola because I have the income, I am financially independent, I would pay for my safety, and so what happens? I only use Ola. Like 10 years old,
Right.
I only use Ola because I now become loyal to the brand. And someone in their leadership team thought about someone like me.
Right, to make you feel safe when you're traveling at night. Fantastic point. I'm going to come back to Madhumita. In our WhatsApp chat that we created, we've been going back and forth about questions, and really it's my mistake to have been delaying with all the questions, so apologies there. But one thing that did come up is, how can hiring practices to include differently abled people, people with disabilities, increase their competitive advantage? And I distinctly remember you talking about how visual impairment at banks could actually expand their market share. So if you can maybe speak about that.
Yeah, even it's marketing or it's software or any sector, the major challenge is the talent drain. So the service consistency is at stake. So to retain employees, it's not only all the initiatives which you do as engagement and other initiatives, but it is all the source is what you need to target. So when you target at the source, it's not only the normal, healthy, the so-called normal people, but also the other set of people, the socially marginalized or economically marginalized people like LGBT or PWD, has a competitive advantage of retaining. Employee retention is the key crux, because you need not again reinvest on them for training. The training, huge training cost which the knowledge industry is wasting, especially the manufacturing sectors also. I do had a lot of friends in manufacturing sectors. They used to say within a year they'll quit. Then Deepavali comes, they'll go off, then they will not come back. Right? There's a huge talent pool, hidden talent pool. No one has tapped that. Why don't you tap that, which is 80%? Where you source, where you attract is all 20%, might be through a professional networking like a LinkedIn or a recruitment tool like a Naukri or a Monster. It's the 80% is hidden inside, where you need to be inclusive so that people will refer you. It is not like offering a 10 rupees to a transgender woman at train, rather asking, do you want a job? Are you educated? Definitely, 50% I'll bet you, they'll say, I'm a graduate, ma'am, I didn't get job. Because I've applied, because there is a woman, they'll say anyone can apply, I also applied, and after all they saw that I'm a transgender woman, and then I got rejected. And then I crossed all it, when in person they found out I'm a gay. Oh, gay customer will not accept. Who said customer? Which customer will not accept gay? Right? They're losing the talent. So the whole world has changed. If you could able to see a lot of structures inside you, which can able to, there's a huge advantage waiting for you, the huge talent pool, the mass talent pool, who's already educated, trained, talented pool is waiting. You need to be a little bit inclusive so that all those people will fill in your buckets, requirements, quickly you can be able to fill it, and you will retain them. The knowledge management is again a crux. The knowledge management is the asset you retain them. These are all you will not get from other opportunity, especially from the so-called millennials or Gen Zs, all fashionable tags who will quit and go. These people will not quit. I'm the organization for the last 15 years. All struggles, all IT's ups and downs, all generations of telecom have been with the company. But then I love the company, I love the boss, I love my people. So this is what minority communities like us immediately will not quit. We dedicated. Yesterday there was a huge flooding in Chennai. Yesterday we didn't call people. There are people who don't have to call. We are a global staffing organization. So there are people, nearby people came. I came all the way 25 kilometers, 50 kilometers spending on the dark road and the flooded to my office. Why? A single trans woman is sitting there, then automatically the other junks who can able to come out can able to come to office and work. I initiated this. When I had my sexual reassignment surgery, 9th day there was a call from the business. I came with 3 meters of urine bag in my vagina, and then I came to office, finished the work. Seat was blood, but I saved the business. So we can be so much dedicated to you because we don't have much friends, we don't have much family, we don't have much social commitments like you. We are all marginalized people. So we can, the one who gives arms to us will pray, will dedicate to the core the loyalty will not get in any breeds, any species you will not get, especially when you recruit PWD people and train them, where there are opportunities for them to immediately call them back, hey, come here, another 10,000 rupees extra, 30%, 60% extra. No one has that capacity to call. They'll retain in your organization, they'll learn more and then they'll contribute. They'll evaluate yourself. This is what the smaller organization, SMEs, doing a fantastic, phenomenal work with persons with disabilities, especially the locomotor disabilities, and hand amputated. The belongingness, DEB, is not only DEI, there is something called B, because it's a 4 pillars of D is that DIB, the B is missing. The B comes when I'm a software employee, say with Cognizant, when I get met with an accident, I'm going to get amputated with my hand, I need not lose a job. I'm confident to work within a single hand. Definitely Cognizant is not going to throw you out, because they are inclusive organizations. In spite of my physical impairedness, the organization will not throw me. The talent can still be exhibited for the organization competitive advantage. I can able to still be with the organization. It's called belongingness. That's what we promote, this DEI to the core, which those kind of people also still retain. If anything happens, my organization will take care. It's not only medical. It's not only medical insurance. It's not only health insurance. But my career is also not on stake in whatever happens, but I can be with the organization for a long time. So it generates B. You want to create D, the blessing what you get is D. What you need to be is I. And you need to ensure always in your spectrum, equity is always inside. You're not easy cake, you will immediately take it and throw it over. You always needs to be that. Yes, I sculpted myself with one inclusive, the press. This is the press which kept me inclusive from my childhood, young adulthood, in spite of all things. This Hindu kept me inclusive of accepting all the people and serving all the people. That's what I do, independent social work, not for my transgender people, but for the PWD people. This kept me inclusive. This kept me posted in all the affairs, international, national and state level, and be a knowledgeable person.
That's quite a testament to my organization. Thank you so much. We're really running out of time, and I do have a couple more questions for each of the panelists, but should I go ahead and open up the stage for Q&A, because we probably might have, yeah. All right. So yeah, the floor is yours. If anyone has questions to our panelists, should we go? Try and keep your questions to the point and refer to whom you want it to be referred to. Yeah. Okay.
First of all, thank you for a wonderful discussion. I'm Raghavi. I'm a HR Technology Manager. So my question goes to Johnny. You said that we can embrace DEI through bulk blind hiring. So when you go with blind hiring, we can compensate both diversity and inclusion. But how do you embrace equity through blind hiring?
Fantastic question. I think equity also is part of, it's not just the personality, right? When you identify a person, you have addressed me as she and her, and so my equity comes from not just the gender, but also the skill I have. So if I don't, to talk about competence, I think someone spoke about competence on the previous platform, and if I don't have the competence that's going to bring to my business the revenue, then there is no equity there. Does that make sense? I hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
I just want to add this. When I apply, when I'm talented, I need to pass through only your talent, skill and requirements of educational. In spite of I'm a gay, I'm a lesbian, I'm a transgender, it's irrespective. So these kind of things can be avoided. The unbiased, the biased thinking can be avoided inside that. That the unbiased training is is the key where they all promoted to ensure the bias is not there. So this blind hiring ensures the unbiased talent pool acquisition. So by that you ensure your DI.
I have a follow-up question. So unbiased hiring, yes, I totally accept with it. But let's say I have a target of making women force, higher women force. Like let's say my company is currently in 13%, I wanted to bring it to 20% of women. So through blind hiring, how would you ensure that as well?
It's not the only solution.
has a response to it. Yeah, go ahead. No, I think you had a response to.
It's okay. I think
No. Go.
The previous question.
Okay.
All right.
Naukri had an option called women, so the posting can able to even blind hiring is different. When the existing system itself is being, Naukri itself as an inclusive organization, they have a drop box where it goes to only women targeted applicants and they can able to have through ATS. So the ATS itself is becoming inclusive, where the AA is inbuilt in Monster or Naukri or other organizations which I'm not sure, but LinkedIn. So the system itself is getting AA. But then the last speakers well said, the person who programmed the AA needs to be inclusive so that the AA can able to attract true talent DA and then ensure your right talent with the DA.
Right.
I think we have to employ a few strategies. Blind hiring is not the only strategy. We started off with diverse job postings in diverse platforms. Then we also mentioned the diverse panel interviewers. So there are a few strategies that you've got to operate. It's not just one.
Yeah. And I also want to say, so when you think about equity, for me, that just means has my organization thought about my unique needs to set me up for success, right? So you can have two women coming back from maternity. One doesn't have the backup at home and therefore needs flexibility, and one does. So have you spoken to the leadership team? Have you thought about the infrastructure, the processes, and the policies, thinking about when you hire diversity, did you have the platforms to set them up for success?
Thank you. That was very brief. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions? All right, so we actually have some more time. Should I go ahead and ask the questions that we have, or should we close the one more question?
I just want to add something to her point.
Sure.
Also,
yeah.
Because you said women, it's not like filling seats with women is going to generate DA for you. No, it is. That is also untrue. Actually, ma'am could have been to know it in reality. There are women-owned organizations, women entrepreneurs, women leaders who don't want women who are pregnant if they are starting with. They say it's not sensitive. We can able to handle it. There are powerful women who have handled till the date of their pregnancy. The evening 7 o'clock she goes out of office and then delivered baby by 11:30, and within a couple of days for sensitive meeting she is available in spite of maternity leave. There are powerful women this side also who can able to contribute, but it's not filling with one gender is going to create the entire DEI, but truly inclusive person, he can be a male or man or a woman or any LGBT community person can able to bring lot of opportunity, especially for women. That is what we say, the gay person can be the best companion for a women's safety and security when you travel. If you say, of course, there's an app called Redbus. Recently I went through that. They created a beautiful opportunity. They said, oh, toilet, you madam, toilet, I was there. He said, all men get down and then they were pissing on the road. I said, I don't want to piss on the road, I'm a social responsibility, get me into a toilet. So how many times when we travel through the drivers or the conductors who don't have a responsibility of taking care of women, that app is installed, women experience prioritization. The women experience will be targeted and accordingly they will design the app and all the initiatives of their allies, associate and suppliers, meaning the logistics companies. Understand, right? So our voice will be expressed to the whole world. It's called personal experience. So it is not only the so-called male or a male, no. It is all the community, especially we all women could able to speak out our problems. It's going to benefit the whole community. It's also again progressive for the entire humankind. It is not, that's what we say, where there is a women's safety, everyone is safe. So that's what we create, that bus could able to pull 1 crore customers by women. Thank you.
All right. I think we're completely out of time with that. Thank you, Sunita. Thank you, Madhumita. Thank you, Janine, for accepting to be here. Thank you.
I would like to call upon Mr. Thangapandian for the city of our campus. A big round of applause and let's welcome him back to the stage. Let's felicitate Ms. Sunita Vikram. And congratulations, Ms. Janine Nirmal. Dr. Madhumita Gonathanayagam. And our moderator, Mr. Kumar Shankar. Our final panel discussion today will focus on leveraging women managers as change agents. Joining in welcoming our panelists is Vidya Prabhu, Associate Director of Global Development People. With big round of applause, let's welcome Ms. Vidya, Mr. Charles Roderick, HR Observer, Ms. Priya Vaidyanathan, Program Manager, Customer Connect and with ITs in Global Home and Hospitality Business. This session will be moderated by Ms. Thangapandian, CEO of Agua. Let's welcome them on stage with a big round of applause.
All right, they say they save the best for the last. And I know we are going on time. Okay, the countdown has begun. I'm not getting down from the stage. We have three fantastic speakers. We could talk on this panel topic for three hours continuously. And the topic that we are talking about is the middle managers. I know for sure we all love to talk about middle managers. They say you don't leave the company or the job, you leave the managers, right? And managers play a very, very important role in building the culture of the organization. So I know their head is filled with a lot of very, very important points, and I had a very pleasant discussion. We already had one panel outside this forum. But I'm just going to start with Charles, who I'm seeing only on the stage now. All right, Charles. As I said, managers play a very key role in setting up the tone and the culture of an organization. How do you think that we could enable them to bring in this DIA perspective to the workplace? How do you do that?
Hello, Vanakkam. Interesting question. To start with, diversity, equity, and inclusion, it's not just gender alone.
Thank you.
Yeah. Diversity in every walks of life.
Yes.
Right. It starts from campus hiring. Top 10 colleges taken care very well. What happens to the bottom line is the question which I had 20 years back. Yeah. So the basic expectation from every line manager will be, can I have the flexibility and freedom, at least to some point, to run my show, right? For example, 2025, I have a projection of about 7% addition in my headcount. Maybe managers should have, beyond that, should have that flexibility and freedom to hire a talent whenever they get an opportunity to meet with. I'll give a classic example. There was a girl who was working in our kitchen in Thangapandian, 11th dropout. She was not a worker, she accompanied her mom just for time pass once in a while. One day she stood up, came and saw one Akka who was working with her laptop from morning till evening. She asked a simple question, Akka, from morning 10 to evening 5, the laptop which Akka pannuvinga. That Akka gave a simple example. Ma, nee ATM card use pannirkiya? She said, yes, amma udaya sambalam varum. I just take care of my mom's every month financial. I go to the ATM, 4-digit number, whatever amount I ask, I get it. அதற்கு பின்பாக ஒரு தொழில்நுட்பம். This was her answer. Right? To cut the story short, one manager wanted to go that extra mile to train her, and today she is working with the same company, not as a helper, as a software engineer. All right? I think diversity, equity, and inclusion should be part of our system, part of our line managers, every walks of their life. Instead of having a KRA, instead of having a process and policy and percentage, I think managers should have the liberty to explore, even fail, and bring up with their own solution.
Absolutely. I think that's a brilliant thought. I think every DEI conference that we go to, we talk quite a bit about women, and I'm guilty of that as well. And DEI is not just about women, right? Diversity, equity, inclusion is treating every human being as human being. And I run a company called Agua, and I make a lot of money teaching another human to behave like a human, and that is the world we live in. And when we're talking about diversity, equity, inclusion, beyond men, women, and genders, it's about giving that right opportunity to not just people who study in the cities, but Tier 2 cities, Tier 3 cities, giving opportunities to socio-economic background, varied socio-economic background, and also empowering your managers to fail fast or take the risk. And I'm going to come back to you the moment I'm talking about failure and risk with you. I know very beautifully that how your company has put a system in place. Thank you.
இனி மாலை வணக்கம். டஃப்பான கொஸ்டின் என்கிட்ட கொடுத்துட்டீங்க. ஓகே, பரவாயில்ல. So I'd like to first mention that whatever I'm going to discuss here would be my thoughts and my experiences. I will be referring to kindred processes in my organization as well. But அது வந்து பைபிளோ இல்லை கல்வியில் செதுக்குனதோ கிடையாது. It's surely what processes can help all of us as a team.
Yes.
So connecting the points that Charles mentioned and the fail fast that we follow as a part of our culture in the organization is, before that I'd like to ask, do we have middle managers in the population? Yes? கை தூக்கலாமா? சில பேர் தான் இருக்காங்க. So the others, I'm assuming, how many of us are in the beginning of our career? Start. Sir, நீங்களாம் சொல்லவே முடியாது சார். அட்லீஸ்ட் மேக்கப் அவுட் போட்டு வந்திருக்கலாம். Okay. How many of us are just above the middle management layer? Maybe leadership? In leadership roles? Thank you so much. Executive leadership? பரவாயில்ல ஒத்துக்கலாம். Executive leadership இருக்கீங்கன்னா பெருமையா.
You don't have to be so humble.
You don't have to be so humble. Exactly. Okay, so we are a mixed audience. So in an auditorium, we have a mixed audience of people, which means my messaging cannot be the same for everyone seated here. நான் சொல்றது மிடில் மேனேஜருக்கு வேற மாதிரி தோணும், ஒரு எக்ஸிக்யூட்டிவ் லீடர்ஷிப் ஸ்டாண்ட் பாயிண்ட்லேருந்து வேற மாதிரி தோணும். அப்போ இந்த ஜேர்னி ஆஃப் கரியரில் ஃபெயிலியர் இல்லாமல் யாராலையுமே எந்த சேஞ்சுமே கொண்டு வர முடியாது. I think all of us have to look at it that way. When we encourage our teams, our managers, our leaders, and our executive leadership to fail fast and adopt change faster, and the challenge in the word karanjikite vandurum. So let's not look at anything as a challenge, but look at it from a change standpoint. Can we bring any change without challenges? Can we change anything without taking risk? எதுவுமே பண்ண முடியாது. கொரோனாக்கு முன்னாடி ஒர்க் ஃப்ரம் ஹோம் முடியும்னு யார்கிட்டையாவது சொன்னால் சிரிச்சிருப்போம், ஒத்துக்க மாட்டோம், மேடம் நீங்கள் ஐடி உங்களுக்குலாம் ஈஸின்னு இருப்போம். இன்னைக்கு ஐடிலேருந்து நைட்டி வரைக்கும் ஒர்க் ஃப்ரம் ஹோம் பண்ணலாம், கரெக்டா? Yes, even garments have done it, and that's why I'm saying 90. And the reason is that unless you are faced with a challenge and you're ready to take change and you're okay to run a risk and then you encourage failing fast, you cannot bring that change. So to bring a change, the only thing, and I will connect it back to what Charles said, is give people the independence. And coming back to why middle managers are going to be very useful. And am I the only one who's feeling so cold in this room?
It is freezing.
It is freezing. Blazer photo ungalke freezing. Okay. So for middle managers here in the room, or for those who are, who coach managers, who train managers, the only thing that I would want you to say is, kunjam மனதைரியத்தோட வேலை பாருங்க, ரொம்ப பெரிய மனசோட வேலை பாருங்க. இவங்கள தான் நான் எடுத்து வேலை வாங்க முடியும், இல்லை இவங்க இருந்தால் என்னோட வேலை நல்லா முடியும், இவங்க வேலை நம்ம ஹையர் பண்ணிக்கிட்டோம்னா நம்ம சக்ஸஸ் ரேஷியோ கூடும். இப்படி பயஸ்டாக இருந்தோம்னா you will not be able to bring a change. And for us to be change agents, to not wait for anyone to come and tell you, you know what, you need to work on change. அவசியமே இல்லை. Change agentங்கிற வேர்டு நமக்கிட்டேருந்து வரணும். So for middle managers, the reason it's going to be even more important is because you are going to be responsible to build careers of people who are going to just rise and move forward. For executive leadership, you are going to be examples that people look up to and you're going to be role models. So your responsibility is different and bigger. But middle managers, we are the hands and feet. So it's extremely important that you become that face of failing fast, taking risk and changing faster.
Thank you, Vidya. I think this is very important. You might have a leader who's a visionary and who wants to bring in a very inclusive workplace. And the frontliners are ready to join hands with them, but it's the middle manager who turn on the switch. And they become a very, very important part of an organization. No matter whether you're hiring a woman or an LGBTQ community or PWD, end of the day, your performance and assessment are done by the middle managers who kind of decide the destiny of your career. I'm going to come back to you, Priya. I know I've heard a lot of best practices from St. Gobind, and I'm sure from middle manager perspective, what is St. Gobind doing to kind of enable the middle managers to be the culture champions?
So, Malay Vanakkam ellarkum. Thanks for the opportunity. I think Anvesa before alluded, for us, we are at the beginning of the journey, and for us, the diversity, equity, inclusion is more about gender diversity, particularly we are focusing on women employees. So when it comes to middle managers, as you rightly said, that's a bulk of people who need to be really driving the change. Entry level, yes, possible. We can have very good sponsorship at the leadership level, but at the end of the day, if the change agents don't really do their job, it's difficult for us. So there's a lot of things that we are, as an organization, that we're doing in terms of enabling the middle managers. First is to give them or enable them into doing the focused hiring. There are specific roles that various businesses are identifying. So we have enabled the DEI consultants who are available to them. And we also give business managers the handbook in terms of having conversations, proper conversations. And we also have trainings associated in terms of how to interview people. Okay? And there is a very clear sponsorship that is coming from the business. Let's say if we hire women employees into the organization, are we really equipped? There were a lot of conversations even before in terms of infrastructure. Do we have the right kind of infrastructure? Especially when it comes to St. Gobind, we have multiple manufacturing facilities. Do we even have proper restrooms in place? Okay, so there's a good amount of budget that's allocated where we look at how the infrastructure should be. So that's something that we have in place. And a lot of women-centric central policies have been designed as well, keeping women employees in mind, so that when middle managers are able to attract the talent, they're able to actually groom them as well. A lot of programs in terms of identifying budding leaders when it comes to the management, middle managers, they've been trained, and if there are practices that, that is not going in the right direction, which is kind of unconscious bias and things like that, we do have we've done a lot of sensitization sessions across different businesses with targeted scenarios as well, for different groups to be able to give that, the might and arm for enabling them, I would say. And a lot of women-centric policies, infrastructure, budget, and development programs, training them how to be a good mentor and coach. So these are the initiatives that the organization has done to be able to enable middle managers to become the change agents, to attract particularly women employees.
Thank you, Priya. I think it's fantastic that the company is investing so much on the middle managers, because you can make a company or break a company, and that power is invested in the managers. In fact, in most of the companies that we work with, we have figured that out. While all of this is fun, DEI is important, we understand that, and we are enabling the managers. I want to also leave the audience understand what are the current challenges, because I have 3 people on the dais today with completely different backgrounds, somebody from manufacturing, somebody from operations and delivery, somebody from HR background. What are the current challenges in training and consistently? I think consistency is a word which is coming back again and again. What is the challenge that we have in keeping these people motivated? I'll come to you, Charles.
Yeah, so maybe I'll give a classic example, the initiative which we do. We have an initiative called Zoho Schools of Learning, where we majorly focus on unconventional hiring, all right? And we don't have a L&D, so-called traditional L&D setup in our
Zoho
organization.
doesn't have L&D.
Yes, because organically Zoho has grown, and we strongly believe that if you want to learn something, if you have the will, you can learn wherever you are.
Okay.
All right? And we give opportunity for managers, employees to fail as much as you can, so that when you bounce back, you'll be 100 times. Yeah. So, few examples I would say, when we hire young folks who are just 17 out of school, 12th grade, we don't teach them anything. We help them to learn by themselves. Right? What is relevant? We just show the path of what is relevant, what is contextual, and what is experiential learning can bring magic at our workplace. I'll give a classic example. 17-year-old kid who comes to the organization. Second year, he or she gets into a team. Third year becomes full-time employee. This is their career path. We have an initiative, same with unconventional hiring. We have an initiative called Marupadi, especially for women who come back after career break because of their personal or family or whatever reason. Just a year back, we took a candidate, 3 months boot camp, no job assurance, 13 varsham career break, 13 years. 100 days boot camp, she trained herself, irukra opportunities ellame leverage panni, she connected with many people in the organization because she had access to the CEO. That is the platform which we were able to give. And today she is in a team, works along with 18-year-old kid without having any comparison game. Add on, she again requested, after 5 months or 6 months, she gave a request to manager that I would like to resign. Manager asked, what happened to you? She said, I'm conceived. 13 years career break, 3 months boot camp, 5 months in the system. Manager didn't have any second thought. He approved. He said, have the flexibility. You work, you choose how much flexibility you want, hybrid venuma, no pannikonga. Please, but don't leave us. That is the assurance no manager gave. I think if we give opportunity for employees to explore, learn how much ever they can, instead of putting policies, process, mandate training programs for them, I think they'll be able to do that magic. Because we see a huge difference in every team. You can see a superstar from the top universities of the world. At the same time, you can see a student who is from a remote village. We strongly believe without having hierarchy, these folks can do wonders in the team. Hierarchy is the biggest challenge which we have. It starts from the college. It starts from the school. Because, for example, when it comes to performance management system, we don't have the so-called labeling, ranking, and so on. We don't want to. If an employee wants to know what is the feedback, what is my performance, we are ready to give. But we don't want to label, you are a top performer, you are a super performer, you are a fast-track performer. No. When you break that basic traditional myth, I think employees can do wonders by themselves.
Thank you, Charles. I'm always amazed when Charles talked from Zoho perspective. No policies, no processes. I'm a very deep-rooted policy person, and I believe when it comes to DEI, we need to have right kind of policies and processes and everything. So every time he surprises. And today I get to know they don't have an L&D, they don't have a hierarchy. Don't believe in hierarchy, Zoho says. So this is fantastic. This is a different perspective to look at as well. Coming back to Vidya and Priya as well, what specific challenges, bringing you back to the topic of middle managers, yes, we can enable them, yes, we can give them flexibility, yes, no hierarchy is needed, but from a D&I perspective, what is the challenge that you see? You can go first.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, thank you. So I'd like to ask a simple question. Do we have anyone who's single in the room? Like legally single, yeah?
Legally single.
1, 2, 3, 4. Either is not single. Either there or not there. Okay. Legally
Halfway
single. So many. Okay. So if I may ask somebody, the gentleman in the violet shirt, if I may ask you, do you have a checkbox? If you were to find a woman, or if you were to find someone like a partner, unga checkbox, may I request for a mic, please? Unga checkbox la or 5 conditions. Appadina enna conditions solveenga? Okay? This is for your personal life.
He is under pressure, filtering out of 50 checkpoints, 5
top 5. Na neenga enna solveenga? All the singles in the room, women? Yeah, yes.
So, family based இருக்கலாம்.
Family based இருக்கலாம். அது ஆப்ஷன் சார். Family based இருக்கணும் அப்படினா அது mandatory.
Like ரெண்டுமே professional, personal ரெண்டு எதுமே like match பண்ற மாதிரி.
Okay.
அது.
Point number 3.
Like socially movable இருக்கணும். Like I used to go places, ma'am. So she should be like the networking.
She should party with him. Should be a social person. Party ki போணும் அந்த மாதிரியா?
Party
க்கு போக கூடாது. கரெக்ட். பார்ட்டி கிட்ட கூட்டிட்டு போற அளவுக்கு சோஷியலா.
Traditional, modern ரெண்டுமே இருக்கலாம்.
Got it. Point number 4.
He had little bit of chance in this conference. You're breaking it now. Let's stop with 3.
No. I am increasing the probability.
Let's just.
அவ்வளவுதானா? 3 போதுமா? Top 3? ஏதாவது வச்சிருக்கீங்கன்னா சொல்லுங்க. உங்களுக்கு ஆப்பர்ச்சுனிட்டி கொடுத்துருக்கேன். ஆல்மோஸ்ட் 100 பேர் இருக்காங்க ரூம்ல. இப்போதைக்கு இது மட்டும் தான். ஓகே, தேங்க்யூ. ஐ லைக் டு ஆஸ்க் யூ, சப்போஸ் நீங்க தேட போனீங்கன்னா இன்னும் 2 பாயிண்ட் இருக்குன்னு வச்சுக்கோம். நம்ம யாராவது நீங்க ஒருத்தவங்க தேட போனீங்கன்னா இந்த 5 பாயிண்ட்டுமே கிடைக்கிற மாதிரி உங்களுக்கு ஒருத்தவங்க உடனே அமைஞ்சிருவாங்களா?
தேடி தான் பார்க்கணும்.
தேடி பார்க்கணும், எக்ஸ்பெரிமெண்ட் பண்ணி பார்க்கணும், அப்பதான் தெரியும்.
One to one communication தான்.
கிளியர் கம்யூனிகேஷன் இருந்தாலும் நம்மளுக்கு கண்டுபிடிக்க முடியும். Sure?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you. We can take back the mic. So the point I wanted to drive was, when we want to drive hiring, okay, this is where we see the challenge between what, and I'm sorry, I'm not cornering the HRs on the stage. Business நினைக்கிறதும் HR நினைக்கிறதும் integrate ஆகி வர்றதுக்குள்ள ரொம்ப கஷ்டமா இருக்கு. Right? Both of us are driving towards the same thing. Both of us are working for the same objective or the organization. So for middle managers in the room, 5 check point வச்சிருக்கீங்கன்னா 3 வந்தா போதும்னு காம்ப்ரமைஸ் பண்ணிக்கங்க. எல்லா challengesம் உடைஞ்சிரும். If you are going to look at a 5 out of 5 green rating, நம்ம purple shirt sir ஞாபகம் வச்சுக்கோங்க. கொஞ்சம் கஷ்டமா இருக்கும். So that challenge if we break, and we very highly encourage that within our organization, you come halfway and compromise, and let the candidate come halfway and learn the remaining 2 skills. I'm not saying compromise on the skills. Give them the time and the opportunity to bring those 2 skills on, inculcate. And on an average, if I take in this room, based on what I asked before, I think the experience in this room put together if I have work experience of 23 years and I'm sure she has 20 plus years, on an average in the room la mattume oru 1000 varsham experience irukum. 1000 varsham experience irukra oru room la ஒருத்தவங்களுக்கு 3 out of 5 skill இருக்குன்னா நம்மளால வளர்க்க முடியாதா? ஒரு 2 ஸ்கில்க்கு அவங்கள ட்ரெயின் பண்ணிட முடியாதா? So when middle managers are ready to compromise that way, our challenges get broken.
This is fantastic. You know, DEA always has that struggle between am I going to prioritize business or am I going to prioritize the industry needs of being inclusive workplace culture. I think that is fantastic, Priya. Vidya, I think I'm going to take that away from you. And coming back to you, Priya, what is the challenge that when we enable, what is the challenges that middle managers face?
See, I'm going back to the diversity point because we are more in terms of having women in manufacturing. So when it comes to middle managers who are in women in manufacturing, so there is a lot of cultural resistance that goes in because இந்த வேலைக்கெல்லாம் இவங்க சரிப்பட்டு வருவாங்களா, அவங்க பண்ணும்போது they take people, what to say, they take decisions for them. They were not even asked, like what Dr. Thamizhachi Thangapandian was telling, the dog biscuit, அது முதல்ல நாய்க்கு பிடிக்குமான்னு பார்க்க மாட்டாங்க, okay, or whether the female is, what to say, is capable, is interested னு பார்க்காம, okay, இவங்களெல்லாம் பண்ண முடியாது. There might be, say, what to say, conscious concern, but if the female really wants to do it, again, when it comes to middle managers managing, the age also comes into picture. So people who have old thoughts, who have bias, that is a bigger challenge that we have seen in our organization as well. If you ask me how we are managing that or beginning to manage, I don't think we have completely solved the problem, but some of the discussions that I've had with the middle managers who are on the shop floor is having informal conversations to see if we can eliminate that bias. And also we are trying to form cross age affinity groups to be able to make them come together and collaborate and solve the problem. And we also have gender inclusive champions who have different, who come from different businesses and share their ideas and best practices through which the middle managers benefit. So to me, it is more towards, I would say, the age discrimination, the unconscious bias, all that goes in when it comes to women in manufacturing. They face a lot of challenge in terms of being in the shop floor to be able to execute their duties. And we are, as I said, we are a company where we have men allies as well, so who are really backing up women in manufacturing to be able to, we have been very successful and proud to say that we have the mirror, all women mirror line, and also a line in in Bangalore location, paper mill manufacturing line also is run by all women. So to me, I think the major challenge women as middle managers face is the cultural resistance and the age discrimination to be able to manage people who are, coming from that old school thought.
I'm going to come back to you, hold that thought, because cultural resistance is very, very difficult thing to crack. In a corporate, you could just do slide presentations and trainings and things like that. When you're working with manufacturing group, how is going to be your approach? They're not going to talk about the policy, they're not ready to talk about the processes. What is it that you bring uniquely to the table? And then you talked about something about informal conversations. Do you want to throw some light on that?
So we have been having informal conversations, bringing in leaders who are able to coach the employees in a very, very informal setting, a low-key setting, I would say, where they exchange ideas and bring to the table. They're not afraid to talk about, okay, this has happened to me, this is what I've done. Okay, so can you tell me how we can address it? So that informal, low-key setting goes a long way, and it has been very powerful as well. It could be small ERGs within the plant or within the function as well. It goes a long way to build that confidence for the women employees to be able to express their thoughts, and it has to be very democratic. So when you make it very formal, things really don't come up so well. So make it so informal and bring people whom they can relate to. Okay? Yeah. So in an informal setting, that is so powerful, I would say.
Absolutely. Bringing that humanness into the conversation. I know for sure Zoho, Charles will support me on that one, because bringing back that humanness is the need of the hour, as in when we are talking about diversity, equity, inclusion. So enabling the middle managers is the key, but before I leave or end, we have 2.5 minutes. The last question that I have is, yes, we have enabled the middle managers, we figured out what are the challenges, we have found ways to fix it, but what is in it for them? You know, how does an organization reward the middle managers to keep this culture going? Because that motivation is very, very important. Charles, jump in whenever you're ready, but I'm going to go to Priya once again. How do you reward?
Okay, so what we've done recently is introducing Ignite Awards. That's the we have there. Nice. We recognize male champions who are really coming together as allies to be able to support women in their career. So who are strong allies, and that actually helps. And the other thing, if you look at from a recognition point of view, if you're able to identify budding talents in different functions, to be able to groom them as leaders who will be able to support as well. That's another thing that we are doing. But what's in it for them, the moment you recognize and reward, I think automatically a lot of people will also relate, to be able to relate to them. Because when it comes to improving women, not just in terms of hiring, developing and retain them, that fostering that inclusive environment is very, very important. So if you're not in the game alone. So you have to actually partner with men. Okay, so.
I'm stealing your mic, Vidya. I know you have a wonderful point. I mean, reward is very, very important for the consistency and constantly somebody investing and intentionally doing something. That commitment comes with a reward. So I know you have a fantastic idea as well.
Thank you so much. A very, very simple idea. For any and every kind of movie that we all watch, கண்டிப்பாக ஒரு டீசர் ரிலீஸ் ஆகும். அதுவும் இப்போலாம் ஒரு டீசர் இல்லை. ஃபர்ஸ்ட் லுக்கு, ஃபர்ஸ்ட் சாங்கு, ஃபர்ஸ்ட் ஆல்பம், ஃபர்ஸ்ட் டீசர், ஃபைனல் டீசர், ரிவ்யூ, அப்புறம் தான் படம் வருது. கரெக்டுங்களா? இவ்வளோதான் பார்த்து எக்ஸைட் ஆகி படம் போய் பார்க்கல, சாமி இதுக்காடா இவ்வளோ பில்டப் கொடுத்துக்க அப்படின்னு இருக்கு. அந்த மாதிரி டிஎன்ஐக்கு வந்து அது பில்டப் அவசியமே கிடையாது இன் ரியாலிட்டி. Because it's always been there, culturally, in our country especially, and I'm sure within the corporate workplace as well. It's just that it's taking time to become natural, that's all. It just has to become natural. But till that time, we have to do it consciously, till a habit develops. So something that we can do is, if you have a success story, please ensure you are publishing it. Because not everyone has the time to find out what is the success story that's running within the organization. So do that consciously. For example, on the days, suppose if Priya has been a phenomenal manager for DNI and she has been working day in and day out, write a success story on her, publish it, and come up with a video. Ask her to share a video experience. Do all the social and digital eminence around it. இது அந்த காலகட்டம் எதுவாக இருந்தாலும் மார்க்கெட்டிங் முக்கிய சாமி. So please go ahead and publish your success stories. Two things. One, it will grab attention of those who do not know. Two, it will bring about competitive spirit, probably. So try and do that, and that could really help. We've done that quite a bit of times. And this is not because we want to, beat our own trumpets, but it is because it is the need of the hour. Like I said, till it becomes habit, we have to do it consciously.
I like this, role modeling it and making everybody know that somebody did something extraordinary, amazing, to bring in that culture of belonging into this workplace. And then when people start talking about it, I think automatically it motivates the rest of the people to follow that stand. So we had a lot of experiences. We have come to the end of the session. We had a lot of varied experiences. You want to have a hierarchy, you don't want to have a hierarchy, you want to fail, you don't want to take a risk, or you want to take a risk, to different other ideas have come through this particular stage. Thank you so much for the panel. Amazing conversation, and not so thank you for this group who's cut short on the time. But just wanted to open up for some questions. If you have, maybe take 2-3 minutes for questions. Is that okay? Thank you.
My question is for Vidya Prabhu. You said like there is no build-up required or any tamasha required to boost DEI. DEI is very women mattum. It's not only it's an inclusive. Every continent, every space, every region, every country will have different challenges on their social and economic backwardness. நம்மளுக்கு அப்படி இருக்குன்னு சொல்றதே தப்பு. ஏன்னா நம்மளுக்கு 2-3 ஜெனரேஷனா இல்ல அது மாதிரி. We do have caste deprivations people, and there are trade-owned businesses. The one who my grandfather was doing an ironing business, cleaning cloths and ironing business, the son needs to do, the grandson needs to do. We have broken everything, like great leaders like Charles' brother Zoho organization, where those kind of people also, if they wish, they are talented, they can able to get into bigger positions. At the break பண்றதுக்கு we need lot of initiatives on the build up, on the mass, on the dam dum கண்டிப்பா வேணும். I just want to express to you. Yeah, thank you.
அதுல நான் சொன்னேன் till it becomes habit consciously பண்ணியே
அந்த ஹேபிட்ல அந்த திங்கிங்கே வரலையே, அந்த திங்கிங்ல தான் பிரச்சனையே இருக்கு. அந்த ஆல் இன்க்ளூசிவ் திங்கிங்ல தான் இங்க பிரச்சனையே இருக்கு. அதுதான் அது அவ்வளவு பில்டப். ஒரு ஹெச்ஆர்ல ஒரு டிஏ இருக்கணும், டிஏ ஒரு கான்ஃபரன்ஸ் பண்ணணும், டிஏ கான்க்ளேவே பண்ணணும், டிஏ லீடர்ஸ் புல் பண்ணணும், சிஎக்ஸ்ஓ வர இடத்துல டிஏ பத்தி பேசணுன்றது. அந்த அவனும் ஒரு சாப்பாடுக்கு வழி இல்லாத அவனும் அந்த சேர்ல போய் ஏன் சிஎக்ஸ்ஓ சேர்ல உட்காரக்கூடாது, அந்த கலர்னால, அந்த கேஸ்ட்னால, அந்த ரீஜன்னால, அந்த ரிலீஜியன்னால, அந்த ஏரியாஸ்னால இதெல்லாம் நிறைய பிரேக் பண்ணியிருக்கோம் உண்மை. ஆனா நிறைய பாதை இருக்கு ஒர்க் பண்றதுக்கு. அதை நம்ம சொல்லிட்டே இருக்கணும். அப்பதான் அவன் வந்து உட்காருவான். You understand, right? And நம்ம கூட நிறைய hesitations on regions of Chennai. Chennai is a cosmopolitan. We invite the whole global citizens to decide. But how North Chennai is being treated? அவன் வரணும். அந்த இடத்துல இருந்து வந்து அவன் ஐடி பார்க்ல உட்காந்தாதான் அது சேஞ்ச். அந்த ஐடி பார்க் ஆப்போசிட்ல ப்ராஸ்டியூஷன் பண்ணா அது சேஞ்ச் கிடையாது. அங்க ஒரு பக்கம் ஐடி பார்க், ஒரு பக்கம் ஃபேஷனபிள் மாடர்ன் ட்ரெஸ், ஆப்போசிட் பீப்புள் ஆர் டூயிங் செக்ஸ் ஒர்க். It's a drastic gender inequality within our proud Chennai, proud Tamil Nadu, right? So way back, inceptions, 2-3 generations, we have completely lost it. Maybe திருப்பியும் ராஜராஜ சோழன் தான் போடும். So definitely we need to take it forward. Thanks.
So thank you for the panel for the wonderful discussion. So my point is like when we're talking about inclusivity, diversity and equity, inclusivity and diversity. So one question to my question to Mr. Charles Zoho. So coming with the point like, so do we actually need the relevant education qualification to become we'll take HR domain itself. So we need an excellent communication and people person to be in HR, and do we actually need the relevant education qualification to become someone in Zoho like you? Do you support that?
Definitely no, because a few things which we look for is like, one, maybe I will connect with Vidya's point. We can't meet 100%.
Yes.
Right? ஏதோ ஒரு நடுவில் வந்தாதான் we can create some magic. Number one. Number two, disruption is required everywhere. Right? And ஒரே மாதிரி பண்ணிட்டு ஒரே டாப் காலேஜஸ்லயே ஹையர் பண்ணிட்டு போர் அடிச்சிடும். Right? Because ஒரே ஜீன், ஒரே ஃபிளேவர், ஒரே மைண்ட் செட் அதான் நம்ம பார்க்குறோம். When we have different, so coming back to your point, it's more of like the basic fundamentals, what you know, what you are good at, beyond your education background, beyond your certifications and so on. The other major percentage would be your will and your interest and your passion, right? And Zoho, maybe many things we try. That's the difference. I'm sure every organization will do that. India we have more freedom for managers to experiment, fail as early as possible. right? Since it's a product-based company, since we are taking care of ourselves, we have that flexibility and freedom. I'm sure every organization will not have that freedom and flexibility, but within the scope, we can bring some change. I'll give one example for you. I've given a couple of examples during my talk. 10 years before, one security guy who inspired a manager over a conversation in a late night when he was leaving office, what is your name? He said, Abdullah Lee. And the manager comment was, I see a spark in your eyes. Second question, manager asked, what is your background? If I was there, I would have told Kashtaparra family, sir. I am from rural background. This guy, a security guard, he said, he didn't even think a minute. Immediately the Painodu response was, I have learned C, C++ during my 9th grade, 10th dropout. Today, he's working in the same building, not as security guard, as senior software engineer. All right? It's more of, see, we have been talking these kind of inspiring stories, as Vidya said, in every forum, even in California, and even in many of the conferences across the world. Our CEO takes pride in sharing these kind of inspiring stories. You won't believe people who travel back from overseas. They come to visit our campus, not just meeting that security guy, Abdullah Lee, they wanted to meet the manager who hired them.
Yeah.
Right? Manager will look for 10 more talent like that.
Exactly.
Right? So it's more of experiment. When we try, without trying, we can't bring some wonders in our work.
Yes, it's not like the brightest brains only from the top colleges and top organizations. Maybe the one who don't get the opportunity for that, maybe from the rural and downtrodden, like some other backgrounds, they may be into that.
Exactly.
So to this conversation, I understood that inclusivity is also coming from, I didn't find the right challenge from not just in the places which we think right, it is also from the places we are yet to explore. Thank you for the
Thank you.
discussion.
Maybe 30 seconds to add just one. Yes, it's more of HR, our own fraternity. I'll give my own example. 6th fail, 7th fail, 9th fail, 10th pass, 12th fail, college arrear, in between career fail. Today I'm working in a world-class company called Zoho as HR leader. Right? It's more of like what Vidya said, it's more of that halfway where we were able to. I'm sure my MD would have had 1,000 questions, doubts. The management would have had so many questions which were unanswered. I guess I'm running my 6th year in Zoho. I'm able to cross that mid and be somewhere there in the journey.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Sorry to interrupt, I just want to add on. So nowadays I see that as a budding recruiter, I can see that like the people who are into the 95% in 10th grade, like 98% in the 12th grade and distinction with first class, were like struggling in between, but the people like, 55%, 60% are shining like anything. I know there were a lot of, struggles and hardships, but this transformation was like always being questioned to my head. How it is possible? Like myself, I got every first class with distinction, and I'm like trying to struggling in my career. Like I'm trying to pull up something, whatever I have in myself, to become this Chinese person. But how it has some magic in it, but still I was like surprised and shocking. I just wanted to know how it is happening, people, and how it's...
Maybe one-liner, maybe somebody can translate. I've tweeted this couple of months back in LinkedIn. பல ஃபெயில் ஆகி வாழ்க்கையில் என்ன பலன் ஒரு முடிவு கொண்டு that is the guts.
Yes.
Right? இழக்கிறதுக்கு இதுக்கு மேல எதுவும் இல்லைன்னு வரும்போது ஒரு துணிச்சல் வரும் பாருங்களேன். You will be 1,000 times than your earlier.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I know Vidya wanted to add one more. Please go on.
I would like to add a couple of thoughts. One, when it comes to, recruitment, right? What you need to look at is there a need on that person, okay? Let alone the qualification. So when I started hiring, when I look for candidates, I would like to see their eyes to see if there is a need and if there is a passion. If there is a need or passion, you can definitely, that candidate will be successful irrespective of their background or qualification. If you get both, excellent. Okay, that's one thing. And when it comes to Saint-Gobain as such, there's a lot of initiatives also underway where we go to colleges which are in Tier 2, Tier 3. Diploma colleges, we have specific programs in training them, and we take diploma holders who come from financially, not so very high financial background, bring them, also give them necessary accommodation, make them very comfortable, train them, and also deploy them in multiple functions. So this is something that we've been doing, and I can tell you that the candidates who have that need and passion, they are very successful or as successful as people who come from premier institutes. I've seen this myself multiple times. So these are 2 points I wanted to add. Thank you. Thanks to experiential learning.
Thank you. And I will again give my, please be seated. It feels really awkward that you're standing. Thank you. So I would like to add my own experience. அவரை மாதிரி நான் ஃபெயில் ஆகலை, எப்படியோ படிச்சலாம், நல்லா பாஸ் பண்ணிட்டேன். எனக்கு படிக்க ரொம்ப பிடிக்கும். So to give, not to show off that I like to study, but I've been a topper all along. School, college, gold medal, இதெல்லாம் வாங்கியிருக்கேன். But we are in the same stage, which means it has no relevance, right? And another thing, I have done a variety of jobs. I have been a radio jockey. Some of us know, people who know me may know. I have been a radio jockey. That was my first career. And then I moved to become a video jockey, which means a media person. And then I'm a certified air hostess. So I've done and I've served for airlines as air hostess. And then I moved into learning and organization development, and I've been in IT for 20 plus years. And I'm படிச்சது BSc, MSc and MPhil psychology. எதுக்காவது எங்கேயாவது connection இருக்கா? இல்ல தானே. So the only thing, and I think that what matters the most is like everyone said before me, the skill and the passion. None of these have gender tags. None of these have community tags. None of these have education tags. So for any of these, as middle managers, I'd urge you, unga gut feel oda ponga. Kandipa with experience you will know, in the candidate namakku seri varuvangala illayanu. Trust that gut feel. Process, requirements, kandipa irko. I am not asking you to discount that. But you will have a gut feel when you see a candidate. I think you can go with that. Like I said before, in the room lo or 1000 varsham experience irukku. So adula gut feel ku or value irko. And I'd urge you to give importance to that gut feel when you go ahead and hire. Somebody trusted people like us and they brought us up. So as our job, we bring up people who may not be equally qualified, who may not have the right kind of experience. Remember the checkbox, 3 out of 5, good to go. So that's my word closing.
This is becoming a hiring therapy session. You might have trust, you might super have talent, you might be passionate, but you still might be rejected because you look like their ex-boyfriend or ex-girlfriend as well. That is why we need diversity, equity, inclusion in the workplace so that people are not biased. With that thought, I want to close this panel and thank you so much for the audience as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, panelists, for such a wonderful engaging session. Thank you so much. I'd like to call upon Mr. Shivakumar and Mr. Ganesh to come up to the stage. Felicitations. With a big round of applause, can we have Mr. Shivakumar and Mr. Ganesh. For the state, Ms. Vidya Prabhu. That's for Charles Godwin. Now we have a huge round of applause for our panelists on stage. And our moderator, Shubha Thakur. So much. We got
partner to an exciting fireside chat. Moderating the session is Ms. Sangeeta Thangapandian, business correspondent at the Hindu. With our speaker, Mr. Karthik Kumar, Center Director at St. Giving Research India. And we have them with big round of applause. Over to the board.
A very good evening, everybody. I welcome you all to this fireside chat with Karthik Kumar, the Center Director of St. Govind Research India. And before we start this session, I assured all of you I'd wrap it by 30 minutes, exactly 30 minutes.
And stay with the promise.
So Karthik, everyone across the globe is talking about diversity, equity and inclusion, which is also known as DEI. But when it comes to actual implementation, not everybody seems to be embracing it. So how does one ensure that DEI becomes a part of the company's DNA and not just a trend?
Thank you, Sangeeta, and thank you everyone for staying back. It's very tough to be the last speaker and before dinner as well. Also, it's tough to have the same topic when many people have already spoken a lot about it. So what I would cover is probably repeating, but emphasizing what many people have talked before. And I want to restrict my conversation on DEI towards gender diversity because that's what our companies at this point, focusing on. And St. Govind, that's what Anvesa and Priya have mentioned before. So coming to your question, Sangeeta, basically the DEI for us, we have seen it work when people take it with full passion, and we have seen that. We have had examples in the earlier stage when Tata Steel was given as example. I mean, it just didn't go with the announcements. I mean, I'm very proud that lots of inspiration has come from Tata family. And way back in 1989, I would remember my relative who was a fresh engineer, who was even kind of felicitated at that point by Ratan Tata, who was still yet to become the Tata head. So in that sense, there was a lot of emphasis on gender diversity right at the manufacturing level, even in 1989. They went ahead with the other programs like Tejaswini in 2002 and also Women in Blue. So these kind of programs have really helped us in the manufacturing. Now, when we look at what works in terms of DI in the corporate world, I'm sure all of us know that if it's in the core objective, core purpose, it will be a clean, things to implement. For example, in St. Govind, our purpose is to make the world a better home, and in that aspect, we also have taken up a gender diversity topics where we need to, bring in and attract women, retain them, and nurture the talent. Now, if I were to further detail this in the context of where it's not working, obviously where if people are using DEI as just a matter of a show, a matter of nice to have system. That's when we really have to be conscious about the fact whether DEI works or not. Coming back to the system whole, basically I would say if the DEI is basically in the DNA, it works.
Also, Karthik, St. Govind is a global organization. So you have your operations across the world. So when compared to St. Govind Global and St. Govind India, do the DEI strategies remain the same, or does it vary according to country or region specific?
Interesting, because we had a lot of conversation on whether DEI is only Indian or not Indian, or whether imported or not imported. I think that kind of a conversation is interesting because throughout the world, we have the same issue. I mean, look at America today. I mean, did we have a women president so far? It's a fact that even when you're talking about America, it's tough to say that there is gender diversity across at different places. But when in our company we have taken this purpose, and let's start. I'm sure lots of information has been given by Anvesha and Priya. But if I were to talk about board of directors, our board of directors have today 55% women, and that's one of the things we are very proud of, because this is something which is tough to achieve. Yeah. Now, coming down at this point of time, we have taken a challenge. I mean, even when you go a little down in the COMEX level or the executive managers level, there is 32% women. And as Anvesha mentioned, basically we've got 25% target earlier, but then we crossed it easily. So we at this point of time, we are even up, increasing our target to 30% over 25. Yeah, and so this kind of a challenge is quite important to keep the purpose. And when we are talking about India, we had this conversation when Priya mentioned about culture. And one of the things we are focused on is, in addition to the leadership buying, we want to have a recruitment which is very strong. And we are looking at 50% plus women, not reserving. I think it's something which is important from the perspective of performance, but from the perspective of looking out more in terms of. And we did have yesterday in one of the campus I went to IIT Bhubaneswar. We have selected 5 candidates, and of which 4 of them are women. So it's a kind of a clearly lookout for women candidates as well.
It's very interesting to know that a majority of your board members are women, and you continue to hire women from campuses also. So do you have to rework or bring in new strategies or policies to make sure that DEI is in place in your organization? So do you kind of revisit your policies every year? What do you do exactly?
Policies, I think we had a great conversation in the previous thing about when there was no policy. I mean, where's Charles? I think we are at that point of time, when you're talking about a system where there's no policy and we are talking about policies, it does help. I mean, we are a manufacturing company, and policies have worked a lot. But when we have this DEI based system, we understood no one size fits all. And basically that's the message we heard in the first lecture, talk itself. When we understood that there's a different need for each women in terms of what they need, we had to really relook at various options of what we do in terms of tasks, and there are lots of things we did. We had about 17 different policies that was tweaked and tuned, specifically because this was something which was not fit for having the women in the workforce, and many of them are quite interesting. For example, from the perspective of travel, maternity, we have got a new leave policy which is allowing women to take a leave every month without any reason, and we have policies around returning women. Of course, Revive and Spark are the 2 things. We have, of course, recognition is an important thing, celebrating, and with the Ignite Awards, Ms. Swarna has actually came and gave us the awards as well at some point of time. So it's something which we had to relook at it, and still look at it. It's not going to be an end of it in terms of policy. We will have to make sure this is going to as per what we could do as a enhancement of the DEI. That's about it.
Also, Karthik, what training methods has Sengo been deployed to drive DEI initiatives within the company? And how does Sengo respond to employee feedback regarding these initiatives?
Priya spoke a lot about how senior managements actually take the individual coaching, mentoring, and ally workshop. We have a strong team put together, led by Uni Krishnan, and then of course Anvesha, Priya, and Janki was here, and Mani and others are. It's a core team, but then the core team actually reached out to a lot of business leaders who are actually men. About 44 members of our company were together, and we started looking at this in a very strong way. And in terms of training, the requirements are all very specific in terms of the unconscious bias, in terms of how we can really relook at understanding, the needs of, in terms of facility, in terms of basically awareness. That's where we are at this point of time. In terms of awareness, that was important first step. And of course, after that awareness, there's a level at which we want to say, hey, there's something I can do about it. And that level of support is where we should be. And further than that, I think we will have an opportunity to be active. And the whole purpose of training is to move from where we are passively to a state where we can be actively making this change.
Also, Karthik, to have a very good DEI in place, you need to invest in two things. One is finance as well as human resource. So do you think companies are investing enough in these two parameters? And also, what kind of talent do you think companies should look at to meet their DEI initiatives?
From finance perspective, I think when we saw the start of it, we can do it at zero cost. It's not that money really matters, but it's the mindset. But then when we are talking about finance, we should be able to look at it in a very similar lens as safety in the manufacturing world. In safety, when it's supposed to be safety, we don't look at the budget. We have to sanction the funds for that. Similarly, in this case, we don't have a restriction on the financial requirement. We do, of course, have to plan it well. But then when you're talking about the team, I mentioned about the team, core team. But there's some other challenges which are interesting. I'm going to talk about something which is very specific in R&D. If in R&D the major element of gender diversity is when I see there's a 45% women in BTech, but about 5% women in MTech. And then there's a sudden drop of, the women who is actually taking higher education in STEM projects. And that becomes a kind of a difficult situation when they can either take a career. They are not building up that level of competence for us to even do an R&D from our side. So therefore, what we have done is a project called Ankuram. And in this Ankuram, we actually have a couple of colleges where we are tied up with, where we will sponsor economically weak girl child to take up the technical stream into a master's. And not only do we give them the scholarship, but also give them a full 6 months internship and a job offer for them to take after this. And this is a thing which we are rolling out in many other places.
Thank you so much, Karthik. And Karthik, there is this general view and perception among a cross-section of people that the DEI initiatives in the corporate world has a resemblance to the quota system in the government. So, and also there is a perception among a cross-section of people that it also compromises on quality, productivity, and many other aspects. So what are your views on this?
We have our Honorable MP who came and spoke about the Women Reservation Bill. And certainly, Women Reservation Bill is quite important from our nation's perspective. And as she said, it's a women's birthright. But then, quota and reservations are those which, enable those who are unfavored to get to an environment which makes them perform what they should do, be performing in an equity sense. So now when we are looking at diversity, equity and inclusion, there is another complementary angle to quota. Now that's all about getting the equity in terms of what they can, and it changes from person to person. Whereas in the context of reservation, it's a kind of a mass allocation, which is not how it should be working when the DEI is supposed to be involved. It's a very interesting question, and probably a topic which can need to be thought about, whether it is how deep we can intersect these two.
And Karthik, before we move on to our last question, I just want to make 2 points over here. This is pertaining to Tamil Nadu. So 2 good things about Tamil Nadu and the DEI initiatives here is, one, the state has the highest number of women working in the manufacturing sector, almost 42%. And I also want to bring to your notice that a few months ago, the Tamil Nadu government made an announcement that it would come out with a seed funding. And this seed funding is for transgenders and also for people who are disabled. And Tamil Nadu is the only state to come out with this. And this is going to be rolled out in the next 1 month by the state government,
Very interesting
Karthik.
and very logical.
And Karthik, the last question, I know everyone's hungry and they're just waiting to get back home. What advice would you give organizations struggling to create a more inclusive workspace?
We had a lot of discussion on this today, of course, for sure. I will cover something which is more from the leadership perspective. There are successful industries which are going good. For example, if I take IT, electronic, even electronic manufacturing for that matter together is successful in the context of diversity. And there are some pockets of success. I've heard tailoring or the garment industry in Gujarat has a certain good diversity population. There are pockets of success. Now, all this and all the conversation we heard so far, if I have to sum it up in one word, it's simply the commitment and the leadership support that makes this DI work. So therefore, let's take that as our first step, whether it is we are in the early stage or whether in the mid stage of the DEI. I think it's all about whether we are going to commit ourselves and whether the leadership is supporting on this topic. And we should be able to do that if we all have that together in this forum. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that enlightening session, Karthik, and we'll now open the floor for questions.
UN Women says the women constitute 30% in research globally, I'm saying. So how do you see this, and what are the support required to fill the remaining 70% of research opportunities for women, which is all women. Women doesn't mean by birth female, it's all transgenders and everyone. Yeah. Especially not from the cosmos or for the metros, but also from the relation, downtrodden states and districts of Tamil Nadu or whatever you are.
Interesting question. We started at 32 about 5 years back, and today we are at 37, as a research R&D sector. And these numbers means nothing unless you can really keep the ability to retain. And this is quite an interesting topic. We had this conversation whether it's urban and rural and other topics. You'll be surprised at the stickiness of the people in doing research as long as we can treat them as a family and keep the passion alive. It doesn't matter whether it's women or men. It's going to be a point of whether they love the job. There's one more element of diversity which we have as an issue in R&D is we based in Chennai have to represent the business across India for, let's say, a factory in Himachal Pradesh or in, let's say, Maharashtra. We had to have the geographical diversity also in picture. And one more aspect is, as a research organization where we have to have a global connect, we also need to have an ability for an international diversity in our center. So we have to build that consciously. And beyond the gender diversity I spoke about, we have built up close to 25 to 40% of diversity in the Indian state. So today we have as many North Indians as much as people from West. So that's an aspect which we are very happy about. And then the ability of international mobility is all about returning PhDs also is considered as an element of international mobility. And we are kind of doing it. But we have to go a long way. I can understand that.
We are yet to develop the guidance and counseling at different level, at school level, college level, at the university level, yet to develop. Then only we will find the right person for the right job. Because they study one thing and then they do some other thing. It is contradictory. It is a waste of human energy. So the research should focus on what are the skills we require, what are the person, attitude, aptitude, so many things are there. This both has to match, then only our country will progress in a right way. There may be so many reservation systems, they may be there, but still we should get the right person for the right job.
So
we cannot put wrong person on the right job because of reservation. We should not do like that.
Yeah.
We must progress in a very scientific way through guidance and counseling.
Yeah.
Then only it helps the individual and the society. As a result, we must have a scientific method to recruit and employ for promotion and everything. We must have a scientific approach.
Your point taken, you had also mentioned this before, but this, beyond reservation, I have one more point which you refer to, is how good are the students coming out of college ready for a job? This is a very interesting point as well. We have recognized the gap that happens in the counseling in the college and the counseling that happens as soon as they enter the job. And there are some elements of, university and the college experience that they would want in the campus, in the corporate world. That's where we really realize that there's a campus to corporate program. Probably we're borrowing a lot from IT world in this, but from the campus to corporate program, we have a three-phase system that gets them to orient themselves to the businesses. And that's probably your angle on counseling, but we have to work with the universities. We are working with the universities on this. With certain universities, we'll do it in a larger scale as well.
I have a quick question. The industrial research, especially the manufacturing research, could you just tell me the percentage of people coming with MS research or PhD or postdoctoral fellowship, one part, and the other part of there can be a practitioner who had been starting from a machinist to a techno-qualified practitioners who have evaluated themselves to research. What is the percentage between these two people? Academically groomed and by practice they have evaluated.
Yeah, when you say practice, right, I think it is hard to place that from the industry level, but what we do is we do offer people an ability to do masters. Since we are in IIT Madras, we will be able to work together to get that degree in place. Along with the degree helps to develop the faculty of research along with the practice. And those who practice are also taken in as the assistants in the lab for a while till they get another job. That's also another opportunity.
What is the percentage actually?
We have about 20% of them would be in that.
From the conventional academic background. So the remaining 80 jump the practitioners. Thank you, sir.
Hey Karthik and Sangeeta, fantastic session. It's very hard to keep up the energy with 50 people left in the room and dinner being served outside. And Madhumita, great questions, reflections. I could see that you were bubbling with energy with so many questions. But I just had a reflection with what you said on training, right? See, to me, diversity, inclusion relates a lot to empathy, right? And it has to come with experiential learning. So how do you train this on the ground? Like for example, we spoke about leadership commitment, and when people really look up to leaders when we say something and do something, is that something that is right to do? I want your experience around how we can enable experiential learning when it comes to DA.
Experiential learning is nothing but actually immersion in my R&D center. I would invite you to come and spend about 2 hours in our center, and you will feel the aura of people is completely purely by what they have exhibited, and you will see that they have felt what happened to their neighbor could be a different experience and what could happen to them in the personal sense. We had all kinds of classic examples. We had recently a person who's hired, joining date is about a month from now, and she declares she's pregnant, and we have to give a maternity leave before she joins. This is a case which everyone knows, and then they know this is a company which cares if that's the case. That's one aspect. There is other situation where there's a sudden exigency in the family and we are all there at that point of time. I'm sure many companies do that, but these situations where company takes care of each other as a family, that's the experience which gives them as an immersion point of it. People are passionate after that. That's what I meant on passionate.
Thanks for that.
Any more questions? I think we've kept our commitment.
Thank you.
We just have a minute more.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Karthik. It was wonderful hosting you this evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much.
I'd like to call upon Mr. Subramanian Ramanathan, Vice President HR The Hindu, to felicitate Mr. Karthik and Ms. Sangeeta. Can we have a big round of applause for Mr. Karthik and Ms. Sangeeta? Thank you so much for inviting the session. To conclude today's event, I now invite Mr. R. Ramesh, AGM the Hindu Group, to deliver the vote of thanks. A big round of applause. Let's welcome Mr. R. Ramesh.